you. We'll take roll call and meeting by alternates. And Summers. Keith Lister.
Here.
Paul Harga.
Here.
Judy. Austin. We're seating as an alternate. They look Plaggy. And we also have alternate Rob Turner.
Yes.
And then Tim Rhodes. And Tim Rhodes is on Zoom. Tim, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you. Is Tim a regular? Yes, he's a real. So you have how many regular members? Yes. 8, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6, which we have. And she's for communications. After last week's meeting, we got Christina Davis's resignation. That's why I'm sitting here. And we also got a letter from town council that Val Pepin, because she is on the registrar of voters, cannot serve as an alternate on the Board of Finance. She receives pay from the town. We need to approve the minutes from last week, from March 12th. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion? Were there any corrections?
I just had a comment. I guess it's a correction. In the minutes, when Kristen Wynot had spoke, she was actually reading Tracy Stansel stuff. So, well, I think Kristen, I don't know if she's here, but I'm sure I can't speak to Kristen, but she was reading that. So I think the minutes just need to reflect that she was reading that, because I don't know what Kristen's actual stance was. She took that over from Tracy, given the circumstances.
I can speak to that. It was her stances.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but I mean, she can speak during public comment. I'm just saying that to reflect in these minutes, she just continued to read Tracy's statement, which was very long, but that's all.
We have a motion to approve the minute. We did. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? Okay. I'm going to open it now to public comment. I'm going to ask that people try to stick to 5 minutes. If you are really in the middle of something, I will give you more time. Okay? And when you get up, please state your name and address, please. And please come to the front of the room so you'll be visible on Zoom. This might be visible. And who raise a hand? Who would like to speak first? Janet. So I'm a sinner's hand. Let's see if it's going down.
Yeah, we're gonna test something.
Say something.
Hi, I'm Janet Bellamy, Sunset Drive. I'd like to thank the Board of Finance for, because I know it's a really hard job. And the fire department, I know getting volunteers is difficult across all town boards. So thank you for all your work. I'd like to acknowledge that we all want to work for the town to be better. So even though we disagree, I really encourage everyone to be cordial. Saw Paul's presentation last night. It was very convincing. And of course, I do support the fire department, and I think it's appalling that we don't give our paid workers benefits, because everybody deserves benefits these days. So the question is, how do we support you and pass the budget? So putting on my political hat, I think about what do we need to do, because a lot of people are struggling these days, and paying more taxes is difficult for them. What I would recommend is that you look at your budget and think about what's the minimum that you could accept that would work for the fire department, so that we can go to people and say, the fire department really needs this much money, but recognizing that people are struggling, they're willing to reduce it a little bit, which gives us, a good talking point. And as well as we talked last night about having Paul and other members of the fire department and public talking about the need for this for the safety of our town. So thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bill Becker.
I think the camera can see you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give those papers, so they.
No, that's all right. Those are blank.
Just,
I have copies that you can distribute. I had trouble with my printer. I had to write copies for everyone. But go down what I say, so I won't be overly wordy. The spreadsheet that I'm passing out is not really new news. Your previous chairman, Christina, has prepared similar analyses. And what it shows is two issues with the revaluation. One is the overall shift to residential property. In the prior assessment, residential was 88%, and now it's nearly 90%. That differential alone, every budget thing being exactly equal, would result in a 2.4% in the tax burden for the residential taxpayer. Okay, I'm showing two real life examples, which are the two properties my wife and I own right behind Rob Chernick. The 2,400 square foot home increased this assessment 45%. The home half the size increased its assessment 53%. What that means is a 5% mill rate increase for me would be an 11% mill rate increase for the other house I own. A 10% mill rate increase for me would mean a 16% mill rate increase for the house next door. So this is an issue with this revaluation. The shift to smaller homes having a higher market value is also associated with a shift to lower income residents. The second point is regarding the Ashford volunteer fire department requests. I support Christine's concept having a budget that will pass, but not being a program or frosting is a decision that should be more than the 6 members of the Board of Finance. This being a public safety issue, it should be a total public decision. Therefore, the Board of Finance majority, because not everyone agrees with everything, the Board of Finance majority should say yes, even if they feel no, because it should be a town decision, not as low as 3. 3 people could fail a motion on the Board of Finance. This decision should be a townspeople's decision because it's a public safety issue. It's not a program. It's not frosting. The third point is sort of legalistic, and I've said this publicly before. There is some issue regarding Paul Varga. He is a voted-in member of the Board of Finance, and that is not contested, and it has not been contested. So he has the right to speak and vote on any issue. I feel he may have been possibly muzzled on the discussions of the importance of the fire department budget. That's all I have to say. If anyone has a question, it's at your risk to ask.
Anyone else like to speak? Margaret?
Margaret Vargas, Seabear, Zychek Road, sorry, wrong address. At the legislative update last night, Representative Pat Boyd and Senator Jeff Gordon expressed extreme opinions and optimism for an increase to ECS funding for the school budget by the end of this session, which ends on May 6th. Therefore, I urge the Board of Finance to research this possibility before taking action, because not only on the Board of Education budget, but all the budgets, as this possibility would have a positive funding impact to the situation we face right now. And they were very optimistic and very positive about it. Some of you were there. And I spoke to Pat and to Jeff later, and they said they really feel that the governor and both the Democrats and the Republicans are going to try to solve the special education budget issue. So I encourage you to think about that, research it, and perhaps that could help with some of our budget problems this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay.
Oh,
I'd like
Paul.
to speak as a member. For those who don't know me, Paul Varga. I am the fire chief. I'm not gonna speak to the budget directly. I leave it at that. Since Friday or last Thursday, this last Thursday's meeting, there's been a lot of things that have happened. Christina Davis resigned from the board. The town had a couple of significant events that affected people both in the town hall and the fire department tremendously. We also had a significant storm Monday into Tuesday that caused a lot of power outages and road closures, et cetera. My department was really, really busy. Town road crews were really, really busy. Our select woman was very, very busy. So I'm saying that because there were some questions asked by board members and some of the public, and the fire department worked really hard. That board of directors worked really hard to try to get all the answers done. However, with that, I wanted everybody to know before the presentation tonight that we worked with our accounting firm to get the ambulance and EMS data that was requested. There was some questions about finance numbers and revenue. We were not able to get that data completed by tonight. So we got everything we could. That's going to be presented. Anything else, we'll have to wait for the next meeting, or you can call me later this week if there's a question directly. I have no problem taking a phone call. But I just want the people to know that we did work to try to get it. But my accountant reminded me that it's tax season, so. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. No more public comment? Okay. We will move on to new business. Select woman's update. Do we have one? It's a very trying week for the last week. We experienced loss for Sam Kopp. And the family has requested privacy for now. And there'll be something in the Ashford Citizen about Chris. I cannot thank the fire department and emergency services enough for the support that you gave to Chris. I know because she told me many times about how she trusted you. You know, she said, I only want those guys. And so, you know, we got to live that, see what that was. And she even fired him in the old days, was one of the EMTs.
I remember her in a uniform, back then. And she told me many stories about, her time there and goodness, about so many things. She is sorely missed by everyone who worked with her. We are a BOF family. There are people who used to work here, that she was part of their family. And she, was such an institution for our town. And so, we've had a lot going on. Because beyond that, I've also attended the meetings of the fire department, listened to the legislative update from Senator Gordon and Representative Boyd. And I'm not always as comfortable as they might sound about something actually happening, because I know that somebody can throw a monkey wrench in there somewhere. So, but I do want to thank all of the people who have been so helpful when our loss of Chris, and just helping everybody. Our staff, they're marvelous. They just keep helping each other. So I don't have much beyond that to say for this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next discussion about the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department budget.
So if I could say something, I forwarded out to you and you just got it. Okay, you don't have Wi-Fi to receive it. Mike Zambo is on there. He has, Mike, are you on there? I know he helped us get this meeting. I can put him on there. So
Yeah,
you can take those documents. Mike,
This is a new system that was.
it's a new system, so we're kind of working through it, so just bear with us a minute. Let's see. Anyone who received that email that is, and that would be your board members, it should be all of you. Whoever that person, one of you, if you wish, can pull up that email and the screen can be shared. Okay, so, again, let me find out if Mike is on, because he received it.
Let me log into the
You
meeting.
have to be in the
Let me
meeting
log
to
in.
share.
I can't hear you.
I said he has to be in the
gonna log
meeting
into the
to share
meeting.
it.
He's not in the meeting.
Well, it's a separate computer.
He has the, he knows how to get in the meeting through Zoom.
Yeah, Mike went.
It's- That's okay, because he knows how to do this. So give me a second.
I'd love to do it from. I'd love to do it, but you guys can see my minutes in the background.
He's in another
All right,
meeting.
who's
Mike's in another
who brought the
meeting.
meeting? Who brought the meeting? In? Yes, I can gather that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So he
can
said.
you to do me a favor? I think you're on copy. You're in the meeting, correct? You need to put your machine on mute. And if you can, leave the meeting and share, you can pull up my email. First thing that's on there is the fire department presentation. Pull that up. Then share your screen. And we have copies of that presentation up here, if you'd like to print a copy. And then, by the way, we did not print them in color because we couldn't afford it, just so you know. But, however, mine are, so let me copy it. So Terry, can you see the thing where you I will make sure you go. You have to mute it.
I'm on there.
Yes.
Are you able to see the share the screen?
Yes, you got to respond.
Very good.
It can get one, like you pull it up on that.
You want, you probably want, I don't know if you can make that any bigger or whatever, but so what I'd like to do is I would like to, the other people to see it.
So it's like a separate.
You have printed copies, so let's get crazy. Break this. Can you see it?
I can see it. Just.
Any, is there any way to make the presentation to be the thing, the only thing you see, you need to see piece of. Big bigger.
It's enough of that to separate it out.
This is our trial by fire, by the way. They just finished getting this really straightened out today, this afternoon. Oh, reverse stand. You can stand right next to their thing if you want. Or, you know, whatever. They won't see you, but they'll hear your voice. They can see it. And you can let this person. Are you ready to speak? Yeah. Ready to go. So I'll make sure it picks up everything he says.
Looking for the budget. Any corrections? See it in the budget.
Any corrections in the budget?
Yeah.
No, there we go. Okay.
So looking at what's the stove.
That's what I was about. That's what the chief was talking about. It's not stop.
No, it's the same budget. This is just a presentation.
So, hi, everyone online. My name is Michael Varga. I'm the assistant treasurer for the fire department. We're going to be here tonight, so you stuck with me. But appreciate the opportunity to kind of explore this a little bit further and try to answer some questions that you guys, ladies and gentlemen, may have. So I'll start real quick with a message from the board of directors. The board of directors of the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department is responsible for ensuring the town of Ashford continues to receive reliable fire and emergency medical services. Like many communities across the country, Ashford is experiencing a decline in volunteer availability and increasing operational requirements. At present, the volunteer department has 21 total volunteers, 4 active firefighter EMTs, 1 active exterior firefighter EMS member, 4 active support personnel. And for reference, active is defined as responding to 10% of incidents supporting one. As a note, all these volunteers work full-time jobs outside of the department and respond when their schedule allows. Their dedication to the community is extraordinary, and the department will continue to rely on volunteers as an essential part of its operations. However, volunteer availability, specifically or particularly during daytime hours, has become increasingly limited or non-existent. This reality is not unique to Ashford, of course, and is being experienced by volunteer departments across the country. An additional and immediate constraint is that the current fire chief has announced he will not continue in the position after July 1st. So regardless of the long-term model chosen, the town must ensure that the department has qualified leadership in place when that transition occurs. The board has evaluated several potential paths forward over the last, this point, 9+ months. There's 5 options, so it's going to be a little lengthy, but we'll get there. The first option is to kind of take a step back and return to a fully volunteer department. This option would eliminate the current paid staffing structure and rely entirely on volunteers for both fire and EMS response. Given the department's current volunteer numbers, in fact, that all volunteers maintain full-time employment outside the department, and more specific, maintaining reliable 24-hour response coverage would be effectively impossible. Additionally, the town still needs to maintain most existing operational costs, such as apparatus, facilities, insurance, equipment, and training. That being said, the probability of success, given the current conditions, is pretty much near 0, if not 0. With only 5 active volunteers and a departing chief, maintaining reliable 24-hour emergency response would be extremely challenging. The second option is maintaining the current model. We'll call it a hybrid model. This model is similar to the department's current structure, combining volunteer leadership and volunteer members with limited paid roster. Now, probably the biggest differentiation between the current model and what we're proposing is that this model depends on volunteer operational leadership to manage an increasingly complex organization. Responsibilities associated with running a modern fire department, including, but not limited to, individual training requirements, training oversight, regulatory compliance, operational management, and active incident management, has effectively become full-time duties and ad lib, if not more. The current chief is departing on July 1st. The department does not have, and this is actually a really important department, and again, realistically outside town. The likelihood of recruiting a new member to take on that role in a volunteer setting is effectively 0. As I'm sure the board can attest to, recruiting volunteers and volunteer leadership is increasingly difficult nationwide, not just for fire and EMS, across the board. And also a really important note is maintaining this current model at minimum still requires a raise to the base pay of paid staff, as well as funding to secure health benefits for full-time employees. I will touch on this a little bit later, but it's kind of pertinent to bring that up now as well. While this is first and foremost to ensure financial and personal safety and security for staff, it's also critical to ensure the department can stay competitive within the industry across regional and state levels. It's important that we hire and retain personnel that possess adequate training, required certifications, and necessary experience to do the job effectively. This maintains a high bar of safety within the department and service for the town. Again, I'll have some more information on this. But to kind of put this into perspective, fiscal year 2026, the department lost 3 full-time employees. In exit interviews, all 3 cited inadequate pay and lack of benefits as the primary reason for leaving the department. It cost the department a minimum of $5,000 to onboard a new employee. Additional context, our last 3 hires have come from outside a 45-minute driving radius of Ashford. In a hiring round conducted this past month in late February, we did not have a single qualified candidate apply from inside a 45-minute driving radius. Which kind of brings us to our last 3 options, and these are going to be explored in depth quite a bit here. Option 3 would be a fully paid municipal department. Option 4, a contracted EMS service to supplement the volunteer fire department. And option 5 is the board director's proposed approach, a hybrid model with paid operational leadership. We're going to work backwards to make it a little more confusing. We're going to start with our approach, and then we'll kind of give some of the alternative research that we've done. So the department's approach, proposed approach, is a hybrid model with paid operational leadership. All right, this maintains the volunteer foundation of the department while ensuring that the organization has consistent, adequate leadership and operational oversight. The limited paid staff ensures consistent full spectrum coverage for safety and service in town. I think we've all seen the budget. The baseline coverage provided by proposed budget ensures 2 full-time firefighter EMTs, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It also ensures a chief will be on duty on selected days based on incident activity, so that we ensure we're covering, we have the most coverage for obviously the times when most of the incidents occurred. This will equate to a 3rd person on duty at the busiest times of the day. Week. So again, 2 staff members on duty. These are 24-hour shifts. And I need to preface this by saying, most fire department, well, all the fire departments in the region, in the state, nationally speaking, run a similar, if not exact same model. So I think that's actually a really important thing to note is that, you know, it's a little bit of a different industry. It's not a typical 9 to 5 in the same way that we have to budget or balance the fire budget different than I would kind of balance my own budget, or if I was in another heavily regulated industry like, you know, aerospace and defense, I probably wouldn't run a company and balance the budget of that company in the same way that I would do my personal finances. So that's important to note. The other thing important to note is this scheduling model. You know, some might do 24/72. Some might do 48 on, 48 off, 24 on, 24 off. But this is a pretty standard scheduling breakdown that we're giving you guys. In fact, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head in the region or state that we've looked into that does it differently in a dramatic fashion. But anyway, covered hours breakdown, 2 staff members on duty for a 24-hour shift. Obviously equates to 48 man hours, 2 people times 24 hours. 40 of those hours are straight time. 8 of those hours are overtime for state and federal mandates. That would equate to 14,600 regular hours per year and 2,920 overtime hours per year. So regular staff cost computation. And this is where there's some deviation from last week when board members were doing the math. 14,600 hours at $25 an hour is $365,000. 2,920 hours at $37.50, which is time and a half, is $109,500, which means the total regular coverage staffing would cost $474,500. Another important calculation is holiday and PTO. So the department currently pays 9 holidays at paid time and a half, again, consistent with all departments in the region and state. 2 staff, 48 hours, 9 holidays, it's 432 hours, times time and a half, $37.50 would be $16,200. PTO, each full-time staff member earns 6 PTO days per year. Again, you got to remember that on a 24-hour shift, right, 24 hours to a day. 6 days, 8 staff, because we have to include the chief in this. 48 days times 24 hours equals 1,152 hours. Times $25 an hour is $28,800. So we can see that computation in the next slide. Getting a total firefighter EMT cost of $519,500. Administration cost.
Is there somewhere on the statutory benefits? What do you call it? FICA, Medicare, FUTA, and workers' comp?
That is on the line item on the firefighter budget, which is not on this presentation, but we can happily get you a copy of that. This
is just payroll.
This is just payroll.
Straight payroll line.
Okay, I look at payroll.
Yeah, I understand what you look at. FICA is in the budget. It's just on another line. That's addressing just the FICA, sorry, it's straight the top line.
Administration costs. We have budgeted for a fire chief $104,000. which includes selected weekday coverage, as well as required meetings, administrative tasks, and additional duties for incidents, severe weather, etc. To give you an idea of what the meetings would include, monthly department meetings, monthly county meetings, state and local meetings, weather briefings, and incident briefings. Administrative duties include incident recording, insurance claims, legal queries, discipline, equipment management, supply management, and daily operational coordination. Administrative assistant, $45,500. Responsible for payroll, regular bill paying, scheduling, hiring coordination, assisting the fire chief and treasurer with administrative and financial duties as assigned. Currently requiring an accounting, finance, or business degree. Of note, of all the departments in the area that have a paid chief, they also have a paid administrator. So that's not a difference from anything regionally that we see. Unplanned overtime. This line includes a callback for large incidents, severe weather, staffing, holdovers, and training. Good example of these would be structure fires, extended rescue operations, large snowstorms, hurricanes, severe weather alerts, extended road closures, multiple calls for service at one time, and multi-agency incidents like the recent train derailment in Mansfield. I think another thing important to note, for example, like if we have an incident on the highway or an incident in town here on a road, it's not just one piece of apparatus that has to go to the scene. You need an ambulance, you need a rescue, you need a service, vehicle on fire, maybe you need something like that too. So it's not just those two guys rolling around taking the world on their own. We have budgeted 1,493 hours, which is approximately 62 shifts. We use previous year's data to come up with this number. 1,493 hours at $37.50 is $55,988. So we have all these numbers put together for a grand total of $724,988. Rounded it up to $725 for budget. Benefits add in, we have slotted $110,000 for a total staff cost of $835,000, which means a minimum of 2 staff on duty, a buffer for additional personnel during necessary incidents, as well as the fire chief. Might be a good time to pause for any questions from board finance on the proposed budget.
Excuse me, yes, is there an administrative assistant now? Who does that for?
There is, it's not the same level that we're proposing. For the same reason that we're proposing a paid fire chief. I think currently it's a 20-hour position, and
Are you?
we're over. we're very thankful that both the chief and the administrator are not comping us for all the time they spend doing the allocated spots.
So you're looking for full-time?
It would be part-time.
It'd still be
It would still be part-time. I don't quote me on it. It's either I think 25 hours or 30 hours. So bumping it up a little.
And just one more question. When people work a 24-hour shift, the last 4 hours are overtime? I didn't understand that.
So technically no, right? So you only accrue overtime after 40 hours. So if you work a 24-hour shift, your first shift would be all straight time. You work a second 24-hour shift, 16 of those hours.
Oh, I see.
So, currently it's being over 24 hours.
24 hours, 365 days a year, 2 people.
Do we have an assistant chief?
Do we have we do have a volunteer assistant. Yes, sir.
The benefit of 110,000 at 725 staffing total is 15.2%. That actually seems low. I would estimate the 20 to 30%.
With benefits.
Yeah, pushing 30.
So
statutory benefits and health.
some of this will be addressed in explored alternatives. But I think what you'll find is based on the regional comps. I think a misconception is that this budget is putting us into be a highly competitive town. I think the reality is, and again, we'll explore this a little bit more. The budget proposal specifically for the paid staff makes us on the very low end of the competitive spectrum. And I think that's something that we've had as a department struggled with, because in good faith, we're not trying to ask for more than we need. But again, we'll get into comps in a little bit here. I think you will notice that in terms of hourly pay, in terms of benefits, the paid chief rule, et cetera, we are still on the low end of the spectrum for
That's
the
okay,
region
right?
and for the state.
So if we have an assistant chief,
Mhm.
how come that person could not cover from July until like maybe we thought of a long-term plan, like a 5-year plan of how to reiterate these things that we need
Mhm.
and stretch it out instead of all of a sudden we have one big lump.
Yeah, so I think probably three things, right? The most important thing is it's up to that individual to decide whether or not they will even want to run to be a chief, right? So
So we
Yeah.
don't talk about this.
I think that's probably an individual decision and department vote, right? So
I'm just
Yeah,
asking
for sure.
a question.
100%.
We don't have a chief.
There's also,
We have two
sure,
assistants who, did we consider that coverage until we could figure out, like, this is huge. This is gonna affect the town really bad. So, but I understand, we need the EMS and we've always supported them. But I'm thinking that, instead of cramming like $1 million in 1 year, that
Mhm.
perhaps we could take snippets. Like perhaps maybe the part-time chief and then, the benefits maybe next year talk about. But little pieces and see how the town absorbs it. If we have people that are willing to step up as chief.
sure.
And that's all.
So directly, we don't have anybody willing, and we don't have, as referenced in the earlier presentation, there is a difference between being an assistant chief and a chief. We don't have anybody in the department with the experience and the credentials in a volunteer role to become the chief. Full stop. We also don't have anybody willing to do it, or maybe we have somebody willing to do it, but they don't meet those standards. Full stop. I think another thing, and again, I would encourage the board to ask questions about some of the numbers in terms of salary and whatnot until the end. The decision, like pushing off or pulling back on the decision now is not going to make the problem any easier down the road. In fact, it will make it more difficult. So even, no, and I'm just answering. So even for the 104,000, full transparency is still on the very low end of the spectrum for paid chiefs in the region. And I think, again, I will go back to, we did not have anybody in our recent hiring for just a paid firefighter EMT. Minimum requirements. We did not have a single qualified person within a 45-minute driving radius who applied for the position. That's a testament to both competitive towns and just frankly, people are knocking down doors to be firefighter EMTs.
With the assistant chief acting as the chief, even on an interim basis, would they still meet would the state give them a pass on the requirement for experience and?
Yeah,
so on?
that unfortunately, again, highly regulated industry, you're talking about safety of personnel, you're talking about safety of the public. That's like asking that's asking a flight attendant to be a pilot for a day.
Well, okay, so in that sense, having the assistant chief act as the chief on an interim basis isn't really a possibility.
Yeah, again, I'll just go back to, we don't have anybody that meets the credentials or the experience to fill the role.
This is the second question.
Sure.
Maybe this is part of the they discussed at the end, but if we're still on the low end of the spectrum, as presented, first of all, thank you for reworking the numbers, okay, and all the work, the presentation, that we didn't have this information.
Yeah, of course.
Very thorough. But if we're still on the low end of the spectrum, are we gonna be able to retain people?
I'll give you two answers. I'll give you the department's answer and I'll give you my personal answers out there. The department's answer, you're gonna do a much better job of retaining people by giving them the opportunity to be retained. So, there are some perks to working in Ashford. Objectively speaking, compared to, for example, Mansfield or Willimantic, we have a significantly less of a call volume, right? So if maybe you are on the back end of your career, or maybe you're just trying to get started somewhere, Ashford's a very appealing place to get some experience or to continue, in your career without having to do 10 calls a day, for example. So there is a give and take to that. And that is one of the value propositions that we talk to when we do the hiring process. That being said, the current pay and the current financial benefits do not outweigh those kind of third-party pros, right? So we're currently not competitive, not only given the compensation packages in the region, but we're also not competitive in where we sit as a tier as a town, right? I'll give you a good example, and I mentioned this in the public comment last week. Woodstock EMS just put out for a full-time EMT only, which means they're doing a third of the work. Similar call volume, $24 an hour with full benefits, comprehensive benefits. We currently offer $23.50 firefighter EMT, no benefits. So even on that level, right, we're not competitive based on the work that you're doing. If that makes sense. Not that I'm trying to scale, because it's all difficult work, right? But I think you can understand what I'm saying, right? Like there is a benefit to not having to do 12 calls a day, right? You're going to take a little bit less pay, but you don't have to go pedal to the metal for 24 hours. But we're not competitive on that scale right now. Mm-hmm. Last question, and I got to go for it.
I think people need to be reminded that this firefighting stuff is, you might say, extremely dangerous. I qualified as a flamethrower in the Army and a Vietnam veteran. And I think fighting a fire is a little notch below fighting soldiers. And the ambulance kind of stuff, while it's not as dangerous, it's extremely emotionally stressful. That this should not be forgotten.
All right, so explore alternatives, options 5 and 4. We're going to backpedal and start with a contract with EMS service to supplement volunteer fire, which was obviously a big point of contention by the board last week. So we're going to address this head on. We got a contract proposal outline from KB Ambulance. Came in early last week. This was the proposal, and there's a lot to digest, so I'll try to work quickly. On the left side is the projected expenses that KB quoted us. It's not an official quote. This is just pulling based off of their numbers and what they do in the region. Okay, payroll $666,761.56. Medical supplies $7,639.95. Business expenses $54,287.50. Vehicle upkeep expenses $22,061.54. Capital equipment replacement $70,000 for a total of $820,750.55. Some really important things to note of this proposed projected expenses. The first thing, this projection, full stop, said that this assumed acquisition of the ambulance and a building to house the employees. The town of Ashford does not currently own the ambulance of the fire department, the stretcher assembly, or medical supplies. The town does not pay for any upfront or upkeep expenses related to the ambulance. So, on top of the projected expenses for an initial year one initial cost, you have to add $350,000 for an ambulance, $7,335 for a stretcher assembly, give or take $30,000 for initial medical supplies, and of course, the building costs and building maintenance for those two full-time EMTs would remain the same at $48,000. So, sorry, and the last thing, also really important thing to note, is this projected total assumes that KB can make the $200,000 annual revenue from the town. If they do not make $200,000 in annual revenue from the town, that number will go up. If they make more than $200,000 in annual revenue, that number will not go down. Okay, so that's how that works. So assuming, again, big assumption here, $200,000 in annual revenue, we're subtracting that from the 827, 50, 55, and then we're adding the initial year one cost, which you will need, 497,904 equals an initial year one cost of $1,118,654.55.
Who owns the ambulance now?
The fire department.
Oh. So we already have one ambulance.
No, the department owns an ambulance. I think it'd be hard pressed to find that the department is going to give an ambulance up for free.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, if you do the contract service.
You have to provide them an ambulance, yes. So again, the projected expenses that KB gave us assumed, and literally said, assumed acquisition of an ambulance in a building, an ambulance, all initial medical supplies, and a building to house the two EMTs. So just to kind of break this down a little bit more, what would the KB ambulance contract give us? It would include 2 EMTs, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It will also give us, which is a big thing, contracted EMS services will send unpaid medical invoices to collections. So if you do not pay your medical expenses, KB ambulance or anybody else, and again, we just got it from KB because that's what was brought up, but this is Hunters, this is AMRs, anybody. Okay, they will send unpaid medical invoices to collections. As a point of reference, in 16 years, the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department has incurred a whopping total revenue of $0.00 from past due medical invoices, and we have never gone to collections. That would be a big impact for the county. What would this proposal not include? This proposal would not include any services or subsequent costs related to fire, rescue, or service call. It also does not include any leadership or administrative personnel or costs, or additional personnel for large incidents, severe weather, or states of emergency. Any questions on the KB or contracted EMS? Before we move on.
So for the cost of and how much of the cost do you get? The previous, wouldn't it be a smart thing to like put a cost on for each call so that maybe you wouldn't get having calls for medium rates or I don't know.
So generally speaking, for a town as small as Ashford, the cost of going after people to pay their bills is higher than the money that you're going to see to get bills. I believe, and I'm speaking slightly out of turn here, I also believe there was an agreement when we first started with the fire department that the ambulance would not send the town to collections. And that is an agreement that was made with the town that we've upheld. I said 16 years because that's as far back as I can go before I get too small to think about. But ever since that we've had the ambulance, that's been an agreement with the town that we've kept.
Do you have people that call like a lot for things that aren't really big issues?
I don't think that we have anybody that fits your description any more or less than any other town. I saw a hand back here.
Basically my question.
Sure. Last call.
That just for a point of order, that question was asked and the general questions answered.
Since we're wide open here, I think we're following the court, but
Going out, I can do it.
thank you.
I can give it to them.
I guess my question is, it sounds like everything is very, very important. There's no doubt about that. And I know the board itself has stated that, it's it's a near impossible thing to take to the town, this big a hit. Is it a zero sum game? Is it all or none? Is that where we're at right now?
Sure. So
Is there something you would take in a stepwise nature to move toward this full coverage?
So I think there's a couple things to digest there, and I'll give you the department answer and I'll give a personal answer as well. I think from a department perspective, we are a little bit at a zero sum game. Again, we can backtrack to option 2, which is basically maintain the hybrid model of volunteer leadership, paid staff. The town is not competitive with what we're currently offering. Department's not competitive. So, and we're going to continue to see a high turnover rate. We're going to have problems staffing people with the proper credentials. So the benefits and the pay increase are kind of full stop, because that puts us at the low end of the competitive spectrum. 2 slides and I'll show it to you. In terms of the leadership stuff, maybe you know a volunteer guy that's got the credentials and the experience to come be a volunteer chief. I can speak, I hope, for the department when I say the current chief is easily putting in 40 to 50 hours a week just on volunteer stuff. Outside of 20 hours the administrator is currently putting in, you can tack on another 10 to 20 as well. Leadership is tired. Part of the reason why volunteer, and this, I'll step over to the personal side. Part of the reason why volunteerism is decreasing nationally is because we've swindled it down to the 1, 2, 3%, and you got 4, 5, 6 guys doing all the work, and they're tired. And so you kind of are at, I think putting this off more is only going to make it hurt more down the road.
If I may.
Sure.
My point is not kicking it down the can to next year.
Yeah.
Okay. From the discussion that went on last time, Luther gave the presentation, one of the most important things was the fire chief, the leadership needing to be there. 104,000 off the top comes off, is a definite. It needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay. Pay to incentivize the current staff to stay with us. Okay. What if it were a January start date instead of a July 1 start date for them, with some type of understanding or commitment from the town to do that increase then?
Yeah, I somewhat speaking out of my own turn here.
Raise your hand.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, would you like to address?
Actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, you have another question? I can do both. It's fine.
I wanted to kind of make sure I restate what I think you were saying, which is you would bring on the fire chief with the benefits of the fire chief. Bring that person on, that expert on for the leadership that's needed, July 1st. And then maybe some other changes. But then in terms of the increases or benefits for the others, paid staff, do that, let's just say January 1st. What happens is, instead of needing $489,070 for that fiscal year, you would have a lesser amount. Let's just say it's $350,000. And what you've done is you made it a little less of a pill to have to swallow for our taxpayers. And then you go on to the next fiscal year and you're already set.
Sure.
You were already set up and there'll be an increase based upon that. That's in that year. And you spread it just out between 2 years. My concern with that would be that you might lose more staff.
Yeah.
But and instead of what I call a MOU or a commitment or whatever, the commitment would be in the budget. It would be in the approved budget.
Yeah. So a few things. I think that I would really encourage the board and public comment to wait until we see some of the comps for some ticket price stuff, because I think there's a wide gap. There's a very wide gap in terms of where we sit currently and even with this proposal and most other people. I also think that, as I mentioned before, you're probably going to lose, especially as public as this has been, you're going to lose most, if not all, your pay staff. And just baseline cost, $5,000 to onboard a new employee. That's basically your 6 months of benefit. Right.
And their training period.
Correct. Yeah.
I think one of the things, in a certain sense, this, for people who sort of paid attention, that the fire department would suddenly come to this thing and for any reason, voluntary quit, at that geographical transfer, that all of a sudden there would be a cliff and require a dramatic increase of finances. And one of the problems with doing a little bit less than what the fire department has asked for is you're trying to recruit a fire chief. And when you look for a new job, okay, you want to be in an environment that's actually working. This could actually hurt the recruitment of a fire chief. The fire chief having an incomplete staff and having a political question in the background of what is really going on. So while I agree with Christina's position that as a Board of Finance, you want to present a budget that will pass. But from my personal experience on the Board of Finance, there are times where I have had the no vote and voted yes, because there are times when the town should decide and not necessarily the Board of Finance. This is a real bad spot. But I really think this is a public safety issue. It is a dangerous job and it matters. It could be, I had 2 ambulance calls. It did not matter when they showed up. For some people, it's life or death. And for a fire, I burn wood, okay? It is amazing how fast fire spreads. Time is critical, okay? So this is the Board of Finance's decision. And you need 4 votes, okay, to support the fire department. And this is obviously, you might say, an argumentative and contentious issue, but it needs to be settled.
Let's move on because I want to get to the last part, and I think it's important just to get the due diligence. You guys want to see it. Municipal Department and Regional Comps, this would be option 3, right? And just brought up, why don't we go to a full municipal department? And I think along those lines, it's just good to see what other departments in the region, in the state are looking at. So I think probably our closest okay. I want to preface it by saying, and I said it earlier, fully aware that some of these towns, in terms of call volume, are very close to ours. Also fully aware that there are some towns, the call volume surpasses Ashford's call volume by 2 to 3 times. If you go to a municipal department, and as you can see, I don't see a municipal department without them. Except for maybe Hebron, I don't know. You are almost guaranteed to have a union. When the union negotiates contracts, you are, number 1, going to lose leverage. And number 2, they are going to look immediately at towns within the region. They're not going to look at call volume. They're not going to look at how many calls you're going on a day. They're going to strictly look at regional comps, and that's how they're going to base their budget or their negotiations. And that's just for the pay. And I think that's a really important thing to state. Okay. Wellington, in terms of call volume, and obviously they're very close town to us, is probably the most comparable. They are a union department. 2026, their hourly rate. Again, as said before, all these departments use some type of overtime model, whether it's a 24/72, whether it's 48 on, 48 off, 24 on, 24 off. Okay. The hourly rate in Wellington currently is $27.03 to $36.17 for a firefighter EMT. I will note that the proposal in Ashford does not even meet the year 1 initial start. If I started tomorrow in Wellington, I would make $27.03. I also know they have a 5-year plan. That $27.03 becomes $39 and change in 2031. They have a comprehensive benefit package. There's healthcare, PTO, 401k with match, etc. They do have a paid chief. The comp plan is not something I'm privy to. I do know the paid chief has a vehicle as well. This vehicle expense, and they do have a paid app. Mansfield, the municipal department with a union. Starting hourly rate of $33.50. Comprehensive benefits package and retirement plan. They have a paid chief with a vehicle, a paid admin, and an annual budget for the fire and EMS of approximately $3.3 million. Hebron is a municipal department with a starting hourly rate of $29.50 with an automatic 3% annual increase. Comprehensive benefit package. They have a paid chief in the 90 to 110,000 annual salary range with a vehicle that the department pays for. They also have a paid admin. Summers is a municipal with union. Hourly rate $29.18 to $37.01 for firefighter EMT. Comprehensive benefit package. A paid chief with an annual salary of $120,000 to $130,000 with a department vehicle. They have a paid admin. Willimantic is a municipal department with a union. Thought this was important to note. 2025, so last year in June, they had a posting for a deputy fire chief, not a full fire chief, deputy fire chief in June of 2025 with a pay range of $103,715 to $125,589. Woodstock, as I mentioned earlier, EMT only starting rate of $24. The comprehensive benefits package. They do have a paid chief. It's an EMS chief, so it's a little bit different, but it's worth noting. And they do have a paid admin. Last comp for you is Enfield. Hourly rate $26.08 to $29.07 for EMT only. Comprehensive benefit package and retirement plan. A paid EMS chief again, and a paid admin. So I think really important to note, of all the fire departments on there, I only see one without a union. I also don't see a rate that is lower than our current. The closest one that comes to our proposed would be Woodstock, $24, EMT only, comprehensive benefit package. I'd also like to note that every town has a paid fire chief or paid EMS chief and a paid admin. And most of the paid fire chiefs also have a vehicle, which is not something that we're asking from the town. And obviously we all know what the price of a new car is without all the fancy lights and gadgets and gizmos either. So, next slide, please. I also have this lovely little chart of firefighter wages. There's 2024 data, so 2 years old, pulled from Career One Stop, which is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor. We have the Norwich, New London, Willimantic CT metro area. Hourly rate on the low end, $17.90. The median rate, $30.43. High end, $37.34. So 2 years ago, we were not in the median. We're on the very low spectrum. We currently, actually, our 2026 number is currently on the low end of the 2020 spectrum. Hartford, West Hartford, East Hartford, Connecticut metro area. I'll give them a little grace because you have the city of Hartford in there. So you have city employees. 2024, low end 2175, median 3613, high 4152. Again, obviously, and I think there's two separate discussions here that are really important. We want to protect our firefighters and EMTs, right? There's that discussion. We want them to have a good standard of living. We want them to have benefits and security in case something happens to them in a very dangerous job. Yes. We also have the discussion of we need to be we need to be able to compete for a very limited resource, right? Again, promise you, I'm sure you can ask the fire academy in Willimantic. They are not, nobody's knocking down the door to be a firefighter EMT. So you have a very limited scope to a very limited pool to pull from. And we have to be competitive within the region. Or we're going back to lack of safety and security for the employees. That's a whole bucket of worms. And also the town, which is the primary concern. Right? We need people that are qualified, for the proper training, proper experience, so that we're giving the town the service that they deserve. And we're protecting firefighters' needs. I'll go back to So, not that I like this part. Any questions? Any questions on the municipal or regional funds? Okay, staff, thank you.
Just a comment on, trying to move the paid chief till later, to put in a assistant fire chief or someone else. As the previous fire chief had also told us, it's all good till you get caught. If you have an assistant fire chief without the credentials and you have a major incident, someone gets hurt, someone gets killed, where's the first person, the lawyers and the legal and OSHA gonna go? To the fire department's credentials. Was he qualified? That brings in huge lawsuits. We just can't imagine what that could be. We just don't know. So we need that credential set up on a legal and a safe assessment.
Sure. And so to that end, if the current fire chief became incapacitated and unavailable, we would be, screwed because the assistant fire chief doesn't qualify.
Okay, I'm not sure.
If you got caught.
Right, that's the thing. We can run as far as we can until someone presses.
Right.
Don't. Not gonna work.
Don't forget the urban shelter.
Just because we spend so much time on fire department, which I appreciate you guys letting us have the opportunity to discuss this. Any more questions regarding this before we have closing thoughts from the board?
I just have one question. Have you thought of what about like attempt to hire position where you go through like a recruiter or something like that to find someone to fill the position on the deadline, like July 1st? So say you can't find anybody, to apply, is that something that's a potential outcome to where you would have to go and recruit somebody in and have like a contract?
Are you asking if we've considered that, or are you asking if that's something that could happen?
Both.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, in theory, anything could happen. So I never say no to anything, but have we considered it? Obviously, there's an additional cost expenditure, right?
Yeah.
On the positive aspect of hiring for a paid chief, there are only so many people in the area that have the experience and the credentials. So stepping outside of my personal opinion, obviously we need the guidelines of whether or not in the timetable, we need the budget to be approved to begin the search. And the earlier we know that, the better, right? I think I'm optimistic that we'll be able to find somebody. That's my personal opinion. Is that I'm optimistic that we will be able to find somebody that fits the certifications and the requirements. You also have, while the current chief, again, speaking out of turn, is leaving on July 1st. And I think Luther said this last week. I think if we all asked him very nicely, he would stick around to knowledge transfer that to the next person. And so, yeah, but those are my answers. Happy to take a follow-up question.
Okay, well, because I'm just thinking like timeline. So when do we do the referendum? So, hypothetical. So when is the vote? So May,
You should have a
you have 2 months to find someone. Okay. And implement benefits.
Would I like
and
3
everything
months?
else.
Of course, I would like 3 months.
Well, is it, yeah.
I'm saying would I like it with April 1st, hire for July 1st? Sure. Personally, I love that, right? So 2 months is not as great as 3 months. 3 months is not as great as 4 months. I think we'll be able to do it, if not pretty close. And again, I can say with 100% certainty, full stop, the current chief is not going to be the chief next year. That does not mean necessarily that he's unwilling to transfer the knowledge and I think in general, you're going to have knowledge transfer. Anytime you have a position of leadership, there's knowledge transfer, not just in fire EMS, whether that be CEO or first selected.
That's part of your commitment.
It's part of the commitment. There you go. Any other questions? All right, so moving forward. The Ashford Volunteer Fire Department Board of Directors remains committed to preserving the volunteer traditions that have served Ashford for generations. At the same time, we must recognize the operational realities facing emergency services today. Improving upon our current hybrid model, while including a paid chief officer position, allows the town to maintain reliable emergency response, support the volunteers who continue to serve the community, and avoid the significantly higher costs associated with a municipal or fully career department, and both the decrease in care and higher costs associated with a supplemental contract with EMS service. Our goal has always been simple: to ensure that when Ashford residents call for help, the department is ready to respond. Appreciate the board of finance, for having, given the department the opportunity to explore this. Hopefully it answered some questions and broke things down a little bit simpler for everyone. Last call, if we have any other additional questions.
Are you still gonna go with ambulance? So I'm sorry,
Can you go back? I'll address, the answer is yes. Again, as the chief mentioned earlier, and as I'm sure everyone's aware, it's been a really long week for the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department. We're all volunteer leadership positions, so frankly, it's only so many hours in a day.
No, it's all right. I'm just wondering if it's not
Sure.
there.
And something, I just want to bring this up because I actually think it's really pertinent to what you're getting at a little bit. So if you notice the KV proposal, you have $22,000 annually for vehicle upkeep expenses. And you have $70,000 for capital equipment replacement, which is all tied to that ambulance as well. So you just got a quote from a third party for upkeep and capital replacement costs for an ambulance. It's $92,000 a year. We also just got the cost of a new ambulance, $350,000. I think that's just a really important thing to think about. And again, I'm not going to speak to the ambulance revenue stuff because that's for next week and we just didn't have time. But I think those two numbers are really important when we think about ambulance revenue and where that's going. Because I think an alternative option to using the ambulance, and not only that, but again, the town does not currently pay for any upfront or upkeep expenses related to the ambulance. That also includes medical supplies, stretcher assembly. So, it's not just the ambulance. And
What money are we gonna use to cover the cost that was removed for the 79 grand for the ambulance in your budget? Where is that money coming from to cover the cost?
the cost of a new ambulance.
Yeah, that we put in every year, if we didn't put it in this year.
Yeah.
I'm just curious where that money's coming from to cover that cost.
I'm a little confused about the question.
I'm not 100% sure what you're asking. I can try to clarify what I think you might mean, and then you can tell me if I'm on the right track. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So traditionally speaking, ambulance revenue has been used to upkeep and maintain ambulance and EMS equipment. Candidly, the current model is unsustainable to do even that. So the ambulance revenue that we've accrued for the last, and I don't want to speak too far out of turn, X amount of years, has not only gone towards medical expenses and the ambulance and an upkeep ambulance, because you have to remember service life of an ambulance is 7-ish years, I think, or 5 to 7 years. I think we're at 8, so we're overdue. We've also, in an attempt to not bring an even bigger catastrophic request to the Board of Finance, some of that money has been used for things like hiring, right? Retention rate, that 50% retention rate is not necessarily a budget line item that anyone wants to have to put in their budget. The extended overtime for storms and service, structure fires and all that stuff. Not something that we've always had to the full capacity in the budget. So that money that's supposed to go into an ambulance and to medical expenses has also been used in other places in the good faith of the department to not have to bring a catastrophic bill to the Board of Finance. And frankly, it's not a sustainable model. Right? We can't run in the red on that.
So are we saving anywhere for the new fire, the new ambulance? So if we're using that money for something else, what is the backup plan for the new one?
Sure.
We need a new one.
Again, I'm not going to speak 100% to that because I want to let the department finish that.
Okay.
But what I will say is another really important thing to think about is just like the cost of a new car has exponentially increased in the last 10 years, the cost of an ambulance has exponentially increased in the last 10 years. So I think that there's been some alluding that like the department is taking that money, that ambulance revenue, and hiding it away for something other than the ambulance. And That is not the case.
I'm just wondering-
Those are just really good numbers, right? Like, and I just say that because 92 and change essentially is what KB is going to charge for annually for essentially ambulance and upkeep. And I will also say that my guess is that's not going to be an ambulance like we have. We're kind of getting a little technical, but it's going to be an ambulance with less capacity as well. So that's just a good number to think about when we talk about.
Yeah, could I ask a follow-up question to Judy's question? The $70,000 for capital equipment replacement, would KB be the reserve for a new ambulance? In other words,
So essentially, essentially you're paying KB for them to buy their own ambulance.
so in other words, you start out, you have to buy the ambulance.
Correct, and then you pay them to buy.
Then and that's the reserve to buy the new ambulance.
Correct, and that's
You would not have to buy.
you would not have to buy, but you also don't own it. Right, so.
So KB owns the ambulance.
Yes,
that you would have to
KB
buy.
would own the ambulance and you would be paying for them to buy themselves a new one.
Okay, that's what that said to be.
Correct.
So that would cover the replacement.
Replacement, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm. And the current revenue is going towards replacement and expenses. So, yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of like my comment too. So when, I don't have the budget exactly in front of me. So when you removed that revenue piece, right, that was the did last time, was removed from the budget. So then are those ambulance and other expenses also removed from the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, the town has never paid for, like, the town has owned the ambulance, the town's never paid for the ambulance. So pay for the upkeep of the ambulance, they don't own they don't pay for the medical expense, like
So
the
that's
medical equipment.
completely
That's
separate.
always been
from-
something that has
than
been taken
business.
care of by the department. And traditionally speaking, in theory, the ambulance revenue should be going towards upkeep and replacement. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, again, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, for your time, appreciate it.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello,
Oh, there are people on Zoom that have questions.
yes, I have a question.
Hello, sorry.
Can't see.
Although, sorry, we don't have internet and see that. So,
Christina.
Chris Sabo would be the first, got her hand up.
Yes, so I have a question about a potential fire chief that would apply. Do all potential fire chief, would they all be credentialed enough to be both fire chiefs and EMS heads? Or could there be a situation where there's a potential fire chief, but not an EMS? And then would we need an EMS head? Do you know what
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
saying?
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, Chris, great question, Christine. Yes, they're 100% situation. The chief would be also credentialed to be EMS. Department, we also try to have leadership roles that aren't necessarily paid, captain, lieutenant, et cetera, that also take on some of the responsibility of EMS stuff. But to answer your question, the paid fire chief, all-inclusive role, so fire, EMS, and candidly, currently, all of our full-time paid staff are firefighters and EMTs. That's a requirement for the job. So obviously, to be a paid fire chief, you're going to be adding credentials instead of taking them away.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other Zoom questions out there? I'll see you.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion and possible action regarding the general government budget.
I provided you with the updated presentation. You have the revenue and expenditure. Well, I don't know what was speaking this last week. Okay, so I'm gonna take you through it now. Can you get the next thing that's down there?
I have just a technical question on the format, being away from this for a long time. There's a column that says Board of Selectmen submitted, and I'm used to seeing a column of the department request and then the Board of Selectmen recommendation.
We didn't know that. I don't think that's been on there for a while. We have talked with the departments about the changes that we recommended. No, I don't believe that's been on there for the last few years. We didn't, let me put it this way, we didn't, all of a sudden make a decision to take it out. This has been the standard for. So,
I believe this is the standard since we changed accounting software.
Yeah.
Years ago.
exactly, I think it was, what, 4 years ago? Something like that.
Actually,
3 or 4.
Chuck, you still in the room? It's been a while, right?
Yeah, I've got,
4 or 5, 6 years.
I'm gonna draw a blank.
Okay, but I'm just saying that, because what happens now is the Board of Selectmen brings the budget to the Board of Finance after they talk with the department, so they change. So,
Exactly.
And that,
those meetings are open if you want to go to the Board of Selectmen meeting.
I mean, it's statutorily correct. Because the Board of Finance decides how you want to receive the budget. I was just previously used to seeing the budget request because historically, a department, the Board of Selectmen and the department would be sometimes radically different. And it was good to know what the department wanted. Because then the Board of Finance makes the decision between the department request and the Board of Selectmen recommendation. And
I'm kind of wondering what the Board of
you can't
Selectmen's
see
doing
that.
then.
What?
I'm kind of.
What?
Never.
Say, no, that's I didn't hear you had a legitimate question.
That's just being.
I was kind of. Sassy. Sorry, I was being sassy.
Well, there is a.
I can remember, and not too distant past, where, selectmen recommended that we just take whatever the departments put in front of us and give it to the Board of Finance. And the comment was, they're gonna cut anyway. My reaction to that is our job as the selectmen is to look at each of the requests, work with the departments, and come up with what we feel is the best amount for that department. They have to make a case to us. And believe me, they need to make a cogent argument for it. So we worked with all of them. We also talked with all of them about the fact that some of the requests were what we didn't feel would be able to be sustained if putting it in front of the Board of Finance, because it would have been too big an increase. We went through last year where we had to go through an exercise of trying to bring the entire budget down to 1%, which was unfathomable. So we work with them. It's not like we just arbitrarily make changes.
No, I don't mean, for departments and agencies that directly report to the Board of Selectmen, this makes sense, but other boards and commissions, they may request a budget and the Board of Selectmen may think differently. And I like that differential being in the open.
And I have no problem. As we go through this, I can tell you what the original request was.
Yeah, but it's not on a printout.
It might be, and I can provide that separately if you like, because it might take too much extra time.
No, I don't want it separately.
You'll take it separately?
No,
You want?
no, I think it should be in the formal documentation.
Okay, so again, we've been doing this format for a number of years.
And that's the Board of Finance choice.
Board of Finance has never pushed back to say that they wanted anything more.
Okay. That's.
Not to my knowledge.
You good, Pam? Talk about the general budget.
Okay.
I don't think I was a member then.
No, it was a lot.
All right, Bill, thank you for that. Because when I was Board of Finance Chair, I think we might have actually had it on there.
You
I'll
did.
have a look. And I don't know, looking back at the budgets that have been published, once they get, the Board of finance puts out a proposed budget. I don't know if they were on there. They may have been on what we provided to the board. And the same thing goes for the budget that's eventually passed, the referendum. When you go out and you look online, they're not on there either. I'm one of those people that actually have a problem with putting the percentages for the budget for the departments on, because as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that matters is what it claims. The percentages can be quite deceiving when you have a small department or small department budget. And then let's just say it was 2,000 one year, and you now need 3,000. It looks like a huge jump. I realize it is, but it might be something that's just one little item, and things possible. All right, so what I would like you to do is, again, I don't think you had this the last time we met. I did things verbally, so what I'd like to do is take you through relatively quickly. Don't get that tired. Based upon the questions that the board put forth to us, some other little things that we discovered on change in insurance rate, projected rate of insurance company, we made adjustments to the various departments. So what you see on here is what I did, and maybe the public can see it too, is what's in blue on this slide. You have it? Do you have it? And for those of you who are color challenged, because my husband always says I am. I'm not. You don't agree on what's turquoise and okay, so the bottom line is that between the original proposal that we put forth, taking in your recommendations or your questions, identifying some things, there were some good catches in there. We went through again, and the numbers you see are changes based upon that. When all is said and done, bottom line, the general government budget, proposed budget without the fire department, increased by $944. That was a net increase from what was presented before. So it went from 3.96% increase to a 3.98% increase. One of the things that was a factor, and of course that changed the total for everything, which is with the fire department's request, the total is $4,766,467, which is an increase of $625,321, or a 15.10% increase. I believe that was talked about the last meeting. The insurance rate that we had estimated as going up to 10% actually ended up at 8.1%. It's the same for the school. While the school you'll see a significant change because based upon the difference between the 10% and the 8.1% is because they have a lot more people that are insuring than we do. We have some employees who elect to take insurance and some who do not. But from the general government perspective, we don't have them. So the impact is not great. Yes.
Do you know if they're adjusting their budget right now? Do you know if they're adjusting their budget?
Yes, we did. It was emailed to you guys today.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I haven't put it on there, so.
So on this first slide, and by the way, everything that's changed is also in italics. So if it's printed in black and white, you'll just know, you can see it's in italics. All right, so nothing else changed. The overall picture did not change dramatically at all. Well, that looks pretty on the screen. Hope you can see it. Reasonably well.
Very good.
The next slide, which shows the staff, nothing changed there. And I'll just reiterate that the union positions are denoted with an asterisk. And we will be going into union negotiations over the next month. They will start. We have to have a new union contract in place or an extension or something by June 30th of this year. The next slide, you'll see, and this is, the only changes again are in blue. This is these are the departments that had a net decrease or no change in their budgets. The transfer station, we were able to go back and bring down because we took another look at the mid-Narrock admin fees, the Mansfield billing management fees, and the River for household hazardous waste, and saw that we had overestimated that a bit. We double checked what we had for documentation on that. So that came down a bit. But the net effect was the $6,698. That decrease. The next page is a little more Christmassy. I don't know if you can tell what you're looking at on the screen. So I'm going to take you through this. Those items that we relooked at and ended up with a higher cost than the original estimate are noted in red. They also have a single asterisk next to them. The ones that are noted in red, where the department name is noted in red, are the ones where we added this line into this departments with net increase. You'll see in the descriptions that for example, let's take Knowlton Hall operations and maintenance. We looked at that. Whoever looked at the looked at the previous year's cost for fuel oil or whatever, or asked questions about that, was pretty on the money because we found a couple of those. So this one says the net increase is higher than the original estimate and the reason is because we added fuel oil. We increased the cost for fuel oil, the amount costs. We saw we underestimated it. The senior center is another one that changed, and that one was that we needed to increase the electric based on past experience. The registrar of voters is in green, and that's one where when we went to look at it and adjust it, we were able to bring the number down a bit, but it's still higher than it was in the previous year. So it's a lower cost than our original estimate, but it's still an increase overall. So the net increase, for example, for the registrar of voters is $437, and that's because we removed the 90-cent an hour increase. The highway garage, that's one that we had not covered, and that one is $2,400 for electricity and propane gas. Going down further, employee benefits. This one is where we applied the 8.1% insurance, health insurance and dental insurance increase. I'm sorry, reduction from 10% to 8.1%, and that changed that number. It reduced it a bit. Debt payments, as we mentioned during our last meeting, Sherry and I are the deciders on that. Her as our treasurer, and me as the CEO. And so this is the 6 months interest on the 15-year note that we talked about last meeting. And you should have received the backup documentation from that. I know Sherry sent it to Christina and you should have received it. Let me know if you didn't. And had a payment schedule on it. And again, that is it's not locked in at this point. That's what we were given by bond counsel. And we will be pursuing that pretty quickly.
Yes. Next time.
Contingency, we raised a bit, and part of that was looking at the increase for the poll workers that we removed from one account. We brought it down to here for now, just to make sure that should we be able to do that, that is covered. Yes.
Question. So on your chart here, the 50,000 contingency, and then on this you have a 34. Is that together for all or separate?
Did I get the wrong number? Is it 54? No, this is this is the net increase. This is
Net.
not,
That's what I'm saying. It's like what the difference.
these are all net increases. These are not the actual number for that
Yeah.
total bill. So our did I miss a number when I updated? Yeah, maybe. And that's on the pie chart sheet. So if so, that's a little typo, because there wasn't much, it was a little typo. The contingency, 50,000, it should be 50,406.
Okay. So currently the budget for contingency is 20,000. What
This year.
that is correct. And what we are proposing is $54,006. So that money is more set aside for.
And your point was, the number doesn't match. But, and I'm sorry, I missed that one when I went through. I put those ones in manually. So, what it should say on the sheet is the pie chart sheet is the contingency. It should say $54,006.
So that's what, is that going to be for the contract negotiations or several other things?
When we do contingency is for contingency. It covers contract negotiations. It covers a number of things. So we look at potential wage increases, that kind of thing, and we've not had the negotiations.
So usually we do have that in the budget anyway.
You can't because you're tipping your hand. You cannot negotiate if you've already shown.
in the budget anyway.
I can barely hear you.
We've had it in the budget anyway every year for that purpose.
In the budget where? No, I know. Where in the budget?
It's been as the contingency fund.
And that's what it is.
It hasn't been that large. That's why I'm asking the question. That's why I'm asking. What do we?
Well, you need to know, we were cinching our belts the last 2 years on contingency, and we were at the end of a 3-year contract with the town. I'm sorry, with the union. 3-year contract. So we didn't have to have that money in contingency. We cannot not have any money there because we have nothing to negotiate. Nothing to pay.
You want me to?
Yeah.
So when I first started, you guys were in union negotiations, so money was set aside in contingency. Then they negotiated a contract, so you would see the increases in the salary lines themselves. We are now
The following year.
for this current year and the prior year. So now we're at the 3-year piece again. We don't know what the percentage is going to be, so money gets put aside in contingency to cover those. That contingency is also in prior years has covered any for electricity, for fuel, in case it goes over, you have that line.
So that's why the salary is going to be flat right now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, because if you look in your paperwork now, that's exactly why you look at salary. So say somebody's $60,000 this current year, it's at $60,000 proposed in the new budget because we don't know what the percent is gonna be based on union.
Pam, looking at the budget assumptions for the heating, diesel, gasoline, propane, and I have no idea what percentage of the budgets are fuel, but this is too low. There's no question this is too low.
I would suggest.
We brought them up.
No, but they're too low.
What we did was we contacted the company that we've contracted with. And that company,
These are
bear
contract.
with me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We contacted the company, we have a contract. The contract is for diesel, gas, and heating oil. And it's the same company. So we looked at our contract with the company because I wanted to know what happens when you have a war.
Yeah, no shit.
I said the same thing. So we looked at the contract and in there, it says, you know, after God, war. And it says that we're locked in. So Sherry called the company to confirm. And because we locked in the rates. So she called the company to confirm
I
and
actually have it in email. We locked in the rates. So the school has locked in the rates that are
yes.
on one of the pages.
It's on the
that have-
first slide, is it?
Yes, second slide. And those rates are locked in for the town and the school, and they are good for the 26-27 fiscal year. And they will not change even if, based on the prices that are going now. We are locked in.
Okay, so that works unless the company goes bankrupt.
Well,
Oh, really?
I get that, but
I'm sorry, but we can.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. Good job. All right, but we did do due diligence on this because that was my first reaction was like, oh my God. What are we gonna be working with? And I don't know how they do it, but you know, these oil companies are pretty big and I'm feeling gouged all the time. So let's see, where we'll see.
contingency line, you're going to the recreation fund line.
Yes, animal control fund. We'll be starting up using in our building over at transfer station. What we call our dog pound. And we looked at that again and went, oh, you know what, we missed propane, gas, and electricity because we haven't used it in a number of years. And this is the one where I mentioned in the last meeting. That there were 5 towns that were looking at trying to build a new facility, a new big facility, and put it in Wellington or in Tallinn. And so Tallinn pulled us all together. And Mansfield was even there. And that's because the legislation for maintaining these facilities became much more stringent and it's going to be put in place January 1st, 2027. And what Wellington and Tallinn and whatever, they were looking at each of the 5 towns getting a steep grant for $1 million a piece. Now, mind you, with a steep grant, we have to put up 20%. So it's even worse than you would think. And we wouldn't be able, when you get a steep grant, you can't get another one until you completed and it's all signed off for the last one you had. So it really locks you down. But aside from that, Chris Abacoff, being the little researcher that she was, would not let it go. And she went and she did look at the legislation and she found the grandfather clause. And which applied to us. And based upon what we needed to do to our facility to make it compliant with the new rules, it was merely changing something in a kennel situation in there. And also replacing the split unit that's in there, cleaning the place out, a couple of other little things. And the total is $7,500. It is not $1 million. or more than $1 million. And, we put that in the capital improvement plan. However, this is for the heat and the propane. Heat, air conditioning and propane. And so the intent is to get that, put in place, and then the animal control officer can use that as a facility. And when people with animals, their dogs and cats or whatever, get out, mostly dogs, they can be put local instead of over in Stafford or someplace else. And Tolland and Wellington and whoever, Mansfield didn't buy into the other. I don't think Tolland and Wellington have gotten to where they need to get to with what they're planning. So they're kind of in a pickle. But that was just one of the things that Chris would do to save us money. And over the years, in terms of getting grants or whatever, I believe she got up to about $8 million. So that was just one of her charming attributes. Youth and Social Services Programs Fund. That one was also a change. It went down due to the insurance going down, the rate coming in at 8.1%. And this one is specific to youth and social services because they're broken out separately. And then you see what the total is, you see what the, and then of course the ABD, Ashford Fire Department and Ambulance, and what they have. Again, net effect of all of that was $944. That's where we are with that. And you already approved the capital improvement budget and moved the 500,000. If you look at your expenditure report out of the system, the one that doesn't have the columns that Bill's looking for, you'll see that 500,000 is represented down at the bottom towards the end of it.
Page 18.
Page 18.
It's on the proposed budget.
And you'll see why it makes me a little crazy, because it makes it look like the general government budget is much more than I'm telling you. Because the 300,000 from the last year that was moved over to do the bookkeeping, including right here, so it looks like bookkeeping. It is bookkeeping. It nets out because of the revenue piece. But the reality is, when you look at this, it distorts what you're looking at.
Oh, yeah.
You should.
You're not getting called you.
You should see what I've had to do, because I take all of this out, put it into Excel, and then continually update it. And I had to climb over that.
So where did that upside
On the revenue.
18?
No,
Is it page 3?
it is on page 3. Yes.
That's fine if you're fine.
Yes. Yes.
We also, if we're looking at the revenues, we had one other change that was made to the revenues.
Yes,
Right on that.
Yes, telecommunications, we get notification that, from the state that, because I think it had like $40,000 on the last report, and now it's up to 73. With the, yes, which is telecommunication. The telephone access grant. Yes, so it was 42 for this year, and now it's 73 to 78. So that's based on all the cell towers. Because they report their equipment that is in the town to the state. The state does the formula, and we get taxes, like pilot payment in lieu of. So the town will be receiving 73.
Any other questions?
Where, sorry, I need to look. Where in the revenue section is, the money we get from like the dispensary? And we get 3% of,
You will not see it here because it's a separate fund.
oh, okay,
You cannot use it for town revenues because you have to use it for a specific,
yes, okay,
it's targeted for specific programs. So the money that you do receive, it's a separate fund.
We can't use it to offset expenses,
Mm-mm.
general
Yeah.
government expenses.
Because you will see there is one right now. There was $3,000 and I've got to get the auditors to make a year-end adjustment to move that to the fund. Because we weren't sure when it came in at first. I didn't know all the
Yeah.
little things that it's tied to, so it needs to be moved to the fund. So there's like $3,000 that's in last year's budget. If you look on the audit report, that you can't use it.
So since this particular item on the agenda is discussion about the general government budget, the fire department is part of the general government budget traditionally. You may want to, and let me just throw something out there. Do we want a separate question on the ballot that shows one part and shows the fire department separately? Or do we have it all together? And we need to get that decision made because they need to come up with what the ballot's going to be. And I don't know what the drop dead date is on that, but it's coming real close. So I don't have an issue either way. What it might do is it might show, get the public's opinion, or whatever, about the fire department and what they're trying to do to improve their position. I prefer they were put together. But I don't want people to be confused.
Wonder though, does that,
And the reason I'd like to put together is because if one fails and one passes,
yeah,
you still don't have a general government budget.
Exactly. And then where does that end? Do you then break out the board of ed separate?
We already.
Yeah.
Already did.
The board of ed is separate.
Right. Okay, with the Department of Public Works, that's another big item, because I get down the road, split out. I think it'd be better to keep it all together.
I'm afraid it would backfire.
I don't want anything pitted against anything else. I know, and I know there's comments about, the fire department asking for a certain amount and the school asking for a certain amount. Okay? Things are relative in terms of the size of the budgets they already have. And so the way our questions are, for anybody who isn't entirely clear, is the way they're posed is the general government budget and the capital improvement plan are one question. The Ashford School is another question, and Region 19 is another question. So there's 3 questions on the ballot. And I see no reason to make a change. I just thought I'd throw it out there to see if anybody had thought about it.
So I have something to throw out there too. I know you're going through a really hard time and actually a lot of members on the board are fairly new and we could use some professional coaching. I'd like the board to consider if being the rough year that it is, that we take advantage of all the tools that we could use and perhaps invite former selectmen to come in and look at all these budgets with us and give us some other ideas. Because like when I'm looking at the budget, there's things that I looked at the shed for the dump. When I looked at the shed for the dump, I was like, that would be a perfect Eagle Scout project. Perfect.
And we don't have an Eagle Scout that's doing it.
Well,
We have Eagle Scout projects going on and they are not.
I have called and talked to them, and so they could probably do it in a year or so. You don't need a shed in a year.
We don't want a wooden shed.
Well, you can be as much as you want, but there's alternatives to save money on things that,
You do realize that you moved the money, that is actually the capital improvement plan, that is not the general government budget. So it's over
I
here,
realize
and you
I
moved
have heard
money
them say it.
over there for that.
I realize that, Catherine, but I'm saying, if you have different people looking at different aspects of it, then maybe we can get creative. And if like, you know, the professionals, I mean, they've done budgets for years, and this is like super huge. Maybe we can use their opinion to help the board, not
Which part is huge? Which part is huge?
all of it's huge, all of it. It's unsustainable, Catherine, you know it. We have to come down with a good budget that will pass, that people can afford.
So
This is
Judy,
not affordable.
so Judy, when we look at a 3.98% increase in the general government budget for, without the fire department, you think that that's excessive?
I think in this current situation that we should look at everything. And
I have my own salary, $10,000.
I'm saying, in the current situation, we should look at everything. Like, I can.
It's up to you.
The
That's
school
up to
did an
you.
awesome job this year. But in the current situation, we should look at everything.
You have 1 week to
And
make
that's
a decision.
Thank you.
You're gonna bring them in. That's fine. They can look at it all they want.
Can I say something about?
I can't get them in. You're not working on their own budgets.
No, hold on.
I'm sorry, I have to think about that. You're asking if we can bring other people in to sit with the board that was elected, that are not elected to sit at that table.
Correct,
Right.
because they have experience and they can
You
possibly
want
give
people
us some
who in
ideas.
town did not elect
I have how many years
sit at
experience?
the table of elected
We
officials.
know we hear it every week. I'm just saying.
Pam,
That's.
I would like to say you're already doing that. You have on the agenda here from public. The chair is courtesy to let people talk during agenda items. Anybody, I'm here, okay, nobody invited me. Anyone who has previous experience, who cares to put input, can put it, and it will be welcomed by the Board of Finance, just like Brian, I think was. It doesn't matter, but already what you want is totally capable, and if a previous person with experience who wants to come here and be heard from the public, wants to submit spreadsheets and analysis, they can do it and you can digest it. But I think having, other than an official ex-officio, Catherine is an ex-officio member. She is entitled to speak at a meeting, not vote. The chair controls who else speaks at a meeting, okay? And it's that simple. We
Actually, what
don't
I
need too many cooks in the
if
kitchen.
I could add, I am an active member of NECOG, and I meet with those other selectmen and select women. And we talk about their budgets, and what they do is they don't have, some of them don't have a capital improvement plan. They don't have a budget where they're saving, putting money in there. Instead, every year they tax. They put those things in there and they cannot purchase the things that they need to purchase. If you say Catherine one more time, I'm gonna. It's really, no, it is a.
It was
not very polite thing.
Towards my board to ask them how they felt about it.
Well,
That's
how do
all.
you feel about it?
I think we get
You got 1 week.
a lot of public comment, but they're over. It's fine. I'm gonna say something that with what Catherine said about 1 week, and it's not going to go over very well, and I know that, but. So bring it forward, what's going on in town. I think the pressure of the 1 week thing is absolutely, in my opinion. And the Judy's point, there's a lot of numbers. Some people feel it's unsustainable, some people feel it's too much, other people may feel it's not enough. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't think the pressure of the 1 week thing it's gonna help, it's helping it. I do know that means that we will spend probably $5,000 more to have a second referendum. But I think in the interest of the board and probably the town, that maybe we should sit here and talk about let's get rid of the 1 week law. And say. I didn't, by the way, and Shante, I didn't get that new budget, so, because that was my question too. So there's some information exchange that has to happen. I'll tell you right now, if Pam asks for a vote, it wouldn't matter, I'd vote no, not that I don't want to approve, but I don't think I've had the time to look at all the information and ask the question. Prior to last Thursday or last Friday, I guess is a better way to put it. I think we were moving in the right direction and on speed and on track, and the train came off the rails. Not to use a thing that happened, but it did. That's out of our control. I didn't do it. You didn't do it. None of us had any control over it. What we do have control over is when we decide to make that decision. That's just my opinion. I know we have a calendar, but we can adjust the calendar.
Yeah, I don't have the calendar in front of me right now.
Next week was the drop dead.
Right, I know.
So I'm just saying that, and again, to the fire department's thing, because of time constraints and because of what happened, they weren't able to get that information. The school sent the information out today. I didn't get it. That doesn't mean it's not there. I just couldn't find it.
We just met tonight.
Right, no, I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying there's so much information that's still coming in. That was literally, I have a pad somewhere here. That was one of my questions. Did they make that adjustment for the insurance? I'm sitting there trying to run numbers and listen to people. I just think in fairness to all of us and especially to Pam, who fell into a spot that it's a rough spot to be in. So, in my opinion, I think we should talk about this stuff 100%. And if we come to a conclusion next week, that's great. But if we don't, then again, could be my thought.
So where did you land?
Well, I have a comment, I guess, to add to that. I guess just my opinion of it is, I understand Judy's perspective of where we need to look, because it is a high budget, obviously, even without the fire department. But then on top of that, I just feel like there's no other alternative, because granted, last year, my position as recording secretary going through the budget was completely out of it. But at least last year, with my experience, was, we proposed come back with what would it look like with 2%? What would it look like with 3%? So I feel like, especially with something that is so substantial with the fire department, that we didn't really get like an alternative of like, look, we can cut, or keep the same like senior programs, or we can cut the shed, like updates to the transfer station shed or whatnot.
It's not part of that budget.
Well, it's 2,500 for, there is the put and take shed.
That's capital improvements.
That's the capital improvement, the shack. So not the shed, the shack. The transportation shack needs repaired. So like floor.
That's the one the guys are sitting in. Yeah. It's just,
Oh,
they have to pull up four, they got four, thick boards. They've got to pull up them all up, and they have to do the rest of it. Say, it should replace the windows and they should insulate it.
Well, I'm just saying, like, like things like that, and to where it's like, it may be little things, but then they can add up to where it's like, we have to try and at least minimize the impact if we are gonna consider the fire department's budget, because that is part of the general budget. So they have to kind of mitigate it a little bit.
We did do that. This has been put on for years, and I suggest that you go down to the transfer station and open the door and look at it.
I have never been to that.
Our employees, I'm sorry, our employees work there. They work there 3 days a week. Full days.
I don't even think, since we haven't gotten the school budget, that we can even go there tonight. Because we don't know what adjustments have been made.
What's the next thing on your agenda is the discussion of.
Yeah, but we didn't get it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and it,
I can give you the numbers right now, and then you can take them back, and I can double check with Cindy, but she said the email was sent. I guess
No,
that
no,
I need
no. I think what Pam is saying is that without getting it and having the opportunity to look at it.
Yeah.
we can't move on.
we need the visual.
We're trying to actually say we need to look at it.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't hurt,
Misunderstood.
it wouldn't hurt to know where they ended up,
Yes,
ahead of time.
if I just texted Pam and said, we're going with it, what do you get to the next?
I don't think we're ready to make any moves on this.
I agree, so.
The only question I had too was, just because I noticed in like the documents that Christina had, was that she had like, a public notice. So
Yes.
after this, we have to do that. So if we push everything back, so say for like next week, is that enough time to then keep, are we still going to keep that
The point
public
was-
meeting?
The point was that date next week, I've done this many times, the date next week is your drop dead date to be able to get the public notice of the notice in
Yeah.
on time. To also have all the time periods you have to have between the notice going out, the public hearing being held, another notice, you having another meeting, okay, that night, and another, making a decision, and another notice going out related to the town budget meeting, annual town budget meeting, and a certain amount of time that you have to get that out ahead of, and that has to be a certain amount of time from the actual referendum. So, that's the schedule, it's been the schedule. What you don't see on your write-up here is you don't see all the hoops that are in between. Okay, but you do have what the key dates are. And if one of those dates is missed, then what happens is you just missed your opportunity to have the referendum where you're showing in context everything that the town would be paying for. You wouldn't be showing E.O. Smith, you'd be showing E.O. Smith in one referendum, and then you'd be showing the other stuff in another referendum. And it wouldn't, you're paying for two referendums. The second is, to me, the townspeople should be seeing everything in context to make a decision.
Well, last year, didn't we put on some extra meetings
We did.
during the week? Yeah. I mean, would that work?
Yeah, because what happens, if you delay a week, everything delays a week except E.O. Smith.
Yeah, I know.
Except E.O. Smith. That doesn't delay.
No, E.O. Smith is that day.
That's fixed. So whatever delay you do, it just, and if you have another delay, it again pushes forward because of the statutory requirements for warning.
But if we can work in a meeting,
Yeah, that's your choice.
yeah. This again, okay, we have the 26th that we'd be adopting the budget.
Oh, wrong calendar, sorry, wrong.
And the 24th is,
That calendar.
Region 19.
It's a public hearing.
That's the 24th. That would like leave us a day. Wednesday.
Not only that, if you make changes to the general government budget, then I have to have or a select meeting, and then we have to bring it back to you. If you propose changes, so I have to warn those meetings.
I think the timeline constraint is. I think we're.
It would be the school budget. Something that's insane.
You like those numbers right there? You just leave it, that's how it is.
You can leave it how it is and see what happens next week. Or we can. Talk about things and make suggestions out. I'm saying that from my perspective, I think time constraint And I realize, I do understand Captain's point that it's better to put them all in one place. But these are circumstances that I think are way outside of the norm.
We also have to look at a special meeting to select.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be done then.
Before.
Yeah.
We get to buy. Everything. That's gonna be a lot of discussion, so.
Well, that could be done again as an early, special meeting.
Yeah, that gives enough time for.
You know.
You're doing fine.
No, it gets worse.
You're doing fine.
You've done very well.
I can't change the I mean, I can't change the number of days that are left in the month.
Well, it's not your decision to make, it's the board's decision.
Yeah.
You don't make that alone.
You guys should discuss it among yourselves.
Yeah, that's your opinion.
I mean, look at your
You
calendar.
can have additional, if the board is willing, have additional special meetings. And I mean, even though I'm dated, that if we were stressed like this, because it's normal to be stressed in a budget cycle, and you want to keep to a schedule. So if the board is willing to have additional special meetings, you might be able to stay on the schedule, but you need the extra meetings, because Paul is correct. This disruption has created the need for a little extra
The other
time.
problem is that, and again, speaking to this circumstance is specific. If it was something like we had a single weather event, couldn't do something, or we had a long power outage, this is entirely different. My opinion, I'm looking at my calendar right now and Rob, see it. I don't have another day.
Not Monday, 23rd.
I'll be away for work. So, I don't have another day. So, I mean, I can try to be on a Zoom meeting, depending on where I end up. But, you know. And there's other circumstances, again, surrounding this whole stuff, these events that are change things, up to my department specifically. So, you know, if you want to have special meetings, I'll try to be on those meetings, but.
Monday's like the only day available.
You have a lot to digest because you had this whole thing tonight where, and you haven't seen the school budget yet. So you
They
gotta
did
get that
see-
and meet and react to that.
They did see the school budget.
There's pieces.
They just are going to see what the adjustment has been to them.
Well, it's still the same thing.
And it was
Still
presented
income.
to them before we ever presented general government. budget.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we did get that.
That was the purpose.
Okay.
So like, even if we have a special meeting, so it's just to discuss the update to the Board of Ed. The same general.
Just go through all three things again.
That would be next Thursday.
Well, no, I'm saying,
Yeah,
to review it all on the 23rd on Monday. I mean, that's like the
You
only
have to
day.
do a meeting notice. You have
I know.
to sure give out.
No.
well, yeah, I don't know.
Those are small, that's fine. Today is Thursday, if you notice it's small, you should be good for the special meeting on Monday. The other problem though is that. I specifically just, because the fire department is the only big number item that we're talking about. That has to go back to their board of directors and they're not gonna meet on a weekend.
Well, that's what I mean, where it's just like, what's the difference between if we discuss it, say now. Versus at a different time,
Well,
because it's like the perspective, yeah, I mean, like.
And what are the
What's the difference? If
sequences?
we go line by line and be like, okay, well, this one, or are we just gonna look at the same budget and just be like, what are we gonna do, guys?
No interest in
You
going
know?
line by line. I mean, you can do anything and say, I would say pick a number where people think, everybody seems to think that, say everybody, some people seem to think that, you know, there's this magic number out there that we have to come to for the budget to pass. And I've been spending multiple hours talking to people publicly and in other events, explaining things. My personal opinion is that if we explain it correctly, that maybe people understand it and they realize that there's a reason that these things are happening and they either support it or they don't. And to Bill's point, I do think that some of these things are not really for just the six of us to decide. Like, and yes, it would absolutely be terrible. That's not the word I was going to use, but I cut myself. If the budget failed, but at the same time, it would indicate what the taxpayers and the voters really want. You know, my feeling is I was put on this board to represent not just the people who voted for me, but everybody. And part of my other duty is to take care of the people. So that's what I'm trying to do on both sides. You know, I brought up before something about the numbers and the differences and why some things seem to be okay and other things don't. That's not personal opinion. I don't understand it. So to sit here and say, to go line by line, so just if somebody thinks there's a magic number out there, then we'll work with that magic number. But I don't personally think that's the case. I think it's up to us as a board, and it's up to the town, and by the town, I mean the board of selectmen and the yellow building, ever should to educate the public as to why there are tax increases that are necessary. And Chuck left, which sucked, sorry, because he can tell you that I used to sit over there with realtors and yell about tax increases. And now I'm looking at these items and going, you know, a lot of these are actually necessary. And every year we talk about the same thing. Oh, it's not sustainable. There's no question about it. So what's the answer? The answer isn't in this board. The answer is in the whole town has to change their attitude about what we're doing in the town. But in the meantime, are we not going to educate the kids? Is that the answer? We'll just say we're not going to get the board any more money because we don't think it's sustainable. No, of course not. Or we're not going to plow the road. How about it with next time for the next winter we just don't plow the road? Let's say we're coming, great. Like you know over time with DPW. But that's not sustainable. So it's an exercise to me in futility to keep saying, oh, it's not sustainable and the town will pass it. Well, I don't know. I don't. I've talked to a lot of people in the last 2 weeks. And I think if you explain it properly and listen to their feedback, and some of the feedback is pretty rough, that there's an answer out there. It's just a matter of where it actually lies or where it falls. And in this particular case, I don't know. I personally would like to see it go to a vote. I would also like to see cuts in other places, but those departments feel that those are necessary things to do. So, you know, I sit in the budget cycle and I talk to all the people, so I know what they're looking at. This town does a really good job overall of being financially prudent. Really, they do. You know, if you look at other towns' budgets, half the time you don't even understand them. It takes hours to try to figure it out. We do a good job at that. I don't think there's a lot of fluff anywhere in any department. Could we make some changes interdepartmentally? Absolutely. That's not for this board, in my opinion. That's for her board to do and address those departments. And they did that already when they talked about their budgets.
tonight, you could finalize the general government budget and decide if you want to defer the decision on the fire department, till next week. But you could actually vote and put that to bed, because you already have the numbers and everything. And once you set the recommendation to a town meeting, whatever agency's involved does not have to resubmit a budget that matches. They're stuck with what you say and the town approves. So that does not have to be considered from a schedule and bureaucratic point of view. Like whatever you decide to give the fire department in the budget, whether it's what they requested or a little bit less or just to pull it, they don't have to meet and resubmit a budget because that's it. So you could decide tonight, it's on your agenda, to finish up with the general budget aspect. You could decide tonight whether you want to address the fire department, and then next week, you've got a clean slate to deal with the Board of Education. And you can maybe stay on your schedule.
Clean slate, because they still have to finish the fire department.
No, but I mean, they can do that tonight or next week, but that's one vote and one item. Okay? And then you go to the Board of Ed if you have questions or not, or you just want to pick a number, because it actually doesn't, once you pick a number for the Board of Ed, statutorily, they could change their whole budget anyhow. So all that matters for the Board of Ed is the bottom line. It doesn't even matter what's in it. I mean, it really does if you're on the Board of Ed, but when you're making fiscal policy, you really don't have control of the Board of Ed budget. So you just, how does it fit in the general picture is all you have to think about.
I think it's great that we're getting some advice from out there, but I think right now, this is something that is the Board of Finance should be
Focus.
speaking on.
My feeling is the size of these budgets, agonizing over $25,000 to me is ridiculous. When you're talking millions and saying, well, gee, we should pull out $25,000 for a shed. To me, it's like, what difference does that make when it's per capita again? That's like nothing compared to what these budgets are. That's nickel and diming. And we can't go and pull out, let's say,
And I don't think that's
$25,000 expenditures in here to save, I don't know, $2 million. I mean, it's not going to happen.
When
You can't do it.
by the way, when I do these summaries for you, I don't think, it's not 25,000 for a shed. It is 25,000 for that category of expenses, and the shed's included. It just happens to be a chunk of it.
This is not a big deal, and it's taken wrongly, okay? I was giving an example of creative thinking on saving money. It's just a frivolous way of that.
So
It wasn't intended like it was a budget decrease of
you
25.
need to understand
Creative
something.
thinking.
I know, and that's the offensive piece. You didn't think we did any creative thinking when we did. I had new members of the board of selectmen. We were definitely doing creative thinking. I challenged the department all the time, and they worked very hard to come up with creative solutions. So to say that we don't do creative thinking is really offensive. That's why we have arrangements with other towns for regional solutions. That's why I go to the NECOG meetings and compare notes with the other selectmen, is to come back with ideas. We looked at having hiring a town administrator to see if we could cut costs that way, if we could, how we could blend things together. And there's not enough time to do that. We'll be looking at that more for next year, but I'm working with NECOG on that. So the creative thinking has been going on. It goes on all year long. And it's not like we're not talking to anybody else, because we are. So creative thinking got us a $200,000 grant for Cable Rock in a way that we've never applied for a grant before.
So I was talking to our board about options.
I don't like to from that we're not doing creative thinking because we are. The inference. All right, so your board's gonna make a decision about what they're gonna do, right? And you're gonna go through, you're just gonna get some more numbers from the board head. And that's all that's left on this agenda, so let me know.
All right, so for
This is like, I've been working a lot late out.
like Catherine said, we can all plan for a 10% increase in health insurance, we came in at an 8.1. So for us, that is a $33,000 decrease, and it brings us down to a 3.01% increase overall.
What the increase?
3.01.
Maybe the total.
Yeah, 9,120,049. And again, that's a decrease of $33,000. You didn't get it. Decrease. We're thinking that the email might have went to the chair's email.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's exactly what happened. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's why I said we didn't get it, because I think that's exactly that.
And I am not officially the chair. See,
I'm not blaming it, like I said. It's a weird, the whole situation is very strange.
Yeah, that's out of all everybody's fault.
So what do you all think at this point? I think the fire department has gone through this to the point of minutia, what's going on and what you all need. And you've held multiple meetings with the town and everything to tell us about it. I think we've heard it. We know what the general government budget is. Now Board of Ed. And I just don't think that all of these different departments are being careless with spending, because we went through it last year, cutting budgets, we had to do it. You know that we can't afford. There's certain things we can't afford. Just can't keep raising it on a whim. So, I mean, I respect that you all have done hard work on this and are not frivolous and not spending money foolishly. Where would you cut?
Can I say something? Just on the referendums. So obviously nobody wants to do it twice, but if we needed to push things back, right, it was we're gonna have to do the referendum regardless. We sent it to the town. And if it's two, it's two. And if we give you guys more time, it's two anyway at this point.
Well, I think that's what Bill was saying.
Yeah.
That we, get the opinion from the town.
Because we can all talk to her.
And I think you said that, Paul. Yeah. And I think that really is the bottom line for us at this point. We met so many times. You guys, you cut your budget. The general government budget is coming lower than they originally thought. The firehouse, I think, is a necessity, what they need. I don't know what more there is to discuss.
Well, I guess just to give perspective, I can't share it on the screen because I'm using my personal computer, but so for the mill rate calculator, I put in the updated Board of Ed, I put in the updated general, and so we still kept Region 19 because we don't know what that is. So that's like the 4% that they had from last year. And so we're looking at with the median home value, assessed home value, tax increase is $684. So then also to go to your point, Pam, of $25,000, how that would change. So if we took out general government, $25,000, just to throw it out there, whichever, let's see. It will be. It changes it. If I'm looking at it. It changes it to $672. So it makes the tax bill for the year go down like $10.
Can you run it, if we took out, just take out 150,000? It doesn't matter which budget, it's for reference.
So then it would be.
Yeah.
If we took out 150,000, it'd be $610. So that's what, $60, $70.
$74.
Yeah.
And then also for,
What mill rate, the median thing, well, what mill rate is being generated for the number? For the first number you gave, which includes
60.
the fire department total increase? What's that mill rate?
so with the general government, how it is with the fire, it is a mill rate of 28.161. And that's with the updated school.
Okay,
And that's not including anything for Region 19. What kind
Oh,
of,
so that doesn't include, or is it
Or-
19
I
as
don't
a,
know if we have like the updated number. So this is just the updated number that Christina had.
probably, but Region 19 is in there, it's
Region
just not in
19.
there with the reduction.
As, like
Yeah,
as a
it's not-
final number.
Yeah, well, they won't know until they're gone. Yeah. Historically, they come in at or below what they give us originally, so.
Yes, but then also too, you have to think of the perspective of what Christina said with that's just the medium, that's
Right.
the
Well, that's
assessed
why
value
Bill
of
was asking about
240,
the-
yeah. So I mean, that is gonna fluctuate for everybody, so it's not necessarily $700 for everybody, it could be this guy's 1,000, this guy's
I can tell you
400.
right now, maybe a lot more, maybe,
Yeah,
right, so that's the problem, right? And
Exactly.
For Bill, it's gonna be a lot. Right? This is, I know this is. But for other people, it will be that, or it might be a little less, or it might be in between.
exactly. But I mean,
yes, that's
especially,
about a 13% increase, I think, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. And so,
School. Six,
They pulled it back though, so.
it was 6 to 9, because it was at 9 first, and they went down to 6. So last I heard it was 6.
Last number Christina had was 13% premium. Maybe 13 to 15, that might be necessary. But it doesn't, I mean, there's no way that every single person in household, business in town is gonna have a different number. It's all based on their mill rate, what their house value is. So to sit here like and say, well, it's 684 versus 610, what it does put in perspective is exactly what Pam said. In the big picture, taking out 25, or quite honestly, even 150,000 doesn't make a really big difference. Yes,
Right.
$75 is a lot, but we're talking about over a year. And again, I am not a fan of raising taxes at all. But what do you want? What services don't we want? I think it was last night at the legislative thing. They asked, I brought up unfunded mandates, and Senator Gordon said, we met with the school superintendents, because superintendents are always the ones complaining about unfunded mandates. And we met with the school superintendents and we said, okay, great. We want to help you guys. So which one of these mandates don't you want? And you know what they said? Oh, no, we want all the mandates. We just don't want, we want you to pay for them.
Yeah, right.
Right, which means that what really is happening is, and that he said, so the state needs to look at ways to fund these mandates, but in the meantime, we shouldn't be making mandates without funding. But the reality is all those unfunded mandates are things that the superintendents or the board of ed or even fire department or public works, whatever they are, they might want them. They just don't want to have to go to the town and say, hey, Board of Finance, I need this money because the state said this, right? And I mean, the taxpayers in town don't want to pay for it either. And I, you know, to his point, that's a state problem. We need to fix it. But, you know, so what services do we want?
Right.
Like I said, I'm half joking, but we could just say that DPW don't fund the road next. Solves a big problem. It's not realistic.
No.
So somebody actually told me, well, we can just say, we're gonna have an age cutoff when you call them ambulance.
Okay, so how does the board feel about this? Do we want to take action on it?
I'd like to, let's have a weekend. Go.
But we want to have a special meeting on Monday?
It would have to be Monday.
I can't do Wednesday.
That's actually fun.
I mean, I could maybe do Wednesday.
I mean, we
But
still
you're
have the
meeting
next week.
Thursday.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had
we're meeting
to.
Thursday.
we have the next week Anyway.
Like, here's the thing. If we have all the stuff, if somebody, if Keith or myself, who wants to sit down and run through the numbers and look at it and say, okay, I'm okay with it, or I'm not okay with it. We have Thursday's meeting to say, okay, I'm okay with it, and let's vote on it, or I think we need to make an adjustment here or whatever. And honestly, I appreciate that, all the stuff that people would listen to, especially with the fire department, but there is a piece of the puzzle that they didn't get to answer, and I think it's a fairness to Judy that they answer that question. So, I don't think it's gonna change anybody's mind, or I hope it doesn't, but it was a question that they were not able to answer due to circumstances beyond their control. But they do need to answer that question.
Could we do a special meeting earlier on Thursday before our regular meeting and vote then?
That's what I was suggesting, maybe come in earlier,
Yeah,
And discuss it.
not 15 minutes earlier.
No,
Can you
no.
Make it 6 o'clock.
yeah,
Is
we
that-
need
Discuss.
time.
Well, why don't you just start the
Why?
regular
Why?
meeting at 6?
We could start the regular meeting at 7:30. We could push.
Why
that
don't we, if we're
back.
discussing
Yeah.
for a finance meeting, just start the regular meeting early.
Well, I think if we change it, it's a special meeting. It would go.
I'm not, I'm
Meaning
not
you
a
change the
counselor, I
time.
think you have to
Oh.
stick with your time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
What difference would that make?
Yeah.
What difference?
What difference would starting early May? I'm just curious.
Well, I'm saying having a special meeting early, do a vote, take action on all of these budgets, get it out of the way before we go into the regular meeting. So it's
No,
not-
what we do with the regular meeting.
the regular, what was our regular meeting? It was supposed to be.
It's literally, we adopt the budget and then set the date and approve the notice for public hearing.
If we do the early meeting.
We could discuss it.
But you gotta do that. That's special meeting, right?
Next Thursday.
Well, yes, to vote for a chair
We could do that.
and then go to the regular meeting.
Whoever wants to be
I
chair.
don't know, we need a special meeting. to
I thought we
vote for the chair. It's to fill the vacancy.
You may need a special meeting because it's a different time,
Yeah.
but then you just have the same agenda.
It's a special meeting regarding.
Right, but you can still have the same agenda, have a special meeting,
That's
duplicate the
agenda.
It's still a special meeting.
No, I know, but.
I just feel like today is the last day to
And
have
then-
very
then
much,
it's
like, even though
Right.
the Board of Ed
Not a
changed,
regular
it's
meeting.
at least changed in like a positive way. So I feel like, okay, if we don't have any issues with it now, then there's nothing really to discuss with it. I feel like, what did you say, general budget?
Would it have to be a special meeting? Now, for the regular, now is this meeting next week, is that filed with the town clerk as a regular meeting for the year, or is it?
It's a regular meeting at 7 o'clock, and I'm saying,
Okay.
could we meet a little earlier and approve the budgets?
That has to be a special
Special
meeting.
meeting.
It's
Yeah,
still-
that's what
that
I'm
would be a
saying, and
special.
do a special meeting at like, 6.
So I guess mine, you could, but I'm like, why are you having a special meeting before a regular meeting if you're?
Do you feel you need the extra time?
Yeah,
Excuse me?
Do you feel you need the extra time?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. If we would, well,
yeah, either
I
do it
mean, the regular meeting could go till 10 o'clock, I guess, if we
or
just-
2 in the morning. It could go to 2 in the morning.
See, don't say that, Bill. I can't stay up that late. Then they've done that.
Well, my
So,
thought is
right.
if there's no changes, then,
Yeah. okay.
so. I mean, it's either we ask for adjustments tonight and we decide whether it's like, all right,
You know,
you know. Fire department, whatever, just do increases or just chief or, we have to decide tonight of what we want to look at and decide for next meeting. Because if not, then I don't see the point of then next meeting arguing,
Right.
doing like, oh, well, we need to adjust this.
right.
And then it's over, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
that's the deadline. So
Sure.
if we don't feel comfortable with the numbers tonight, then, we have to go back and have them change it, at least give us adjustments. Or are we just saying that it is what it is, kind of? I mean, we've had it for 3 weeks. The thing that we focused mainly on was the fire department. And I mean, is there anything with that we need to change after going through it? I mean, I don't know, everybody's opinion, but I mean, I don't,
That's why we vote,
yeah, well, yeah.
I think you're saying we both side.
Not necessarily vote, but I'm saying if there is any changes. So if anybody's like not happy with the numbers or wants to see something different, then tonight's the night to decide and be like, look, well, general government, come down 3%. You're at 4%, come down 3%, and let's see what that looks like, if that's what we want to decide. I mean, or if we're just taking the stance of, well, this budget is gonna affect everybody differently, let's just have everybody decide, as in like the public, based off of home values, reval, all that. So, I mean, I just don't see the point.
You could have a motion to vote on the general government minus the fire department. You're all familiar with I'm not familiar with it at all, but if you're familiar with it, you vote on it and however you want to vote. If you want to vote by department, if you want to vote on the whole thing, if you're presenting the budget by line items, you have to approve the individuals either as a global vote or change individual line items. You should be able to settle tonight the general government budget minus the fire department and defer that decision to another meeting. You can do that if you want to.
Can't do that,
Why not?
because the fire department is part of the general government.
No, I don't mean do the finalize the total. You could vote
So,
on.
Well,
'cause you-
then, I think the issue isn't the fire department, I think the issue is the general government.
Oh.
So I think it's kind of
Everybody
split.
have adjustments that they would like to see in any of those budgets. The general government budget, the board head budget, we already did the capital improvement budget, so those are the only two that we have any control over right now. That's the bottom line. Does somebody want to see a dollar change? I hate percentage changes, so a dollar change, or not?
Not this tough.
Okay.
Really, we do a percentage change anyway.
I know,
That-
that's what I.
I know it's bad, but I, quite frankly, if I had to do it tonight, I would not do it,
Would not do,
would not vote on it.
okay.
Because I just need more time thinking about everything.
Right, and that's, but to Kayla's point, like, if somebody has an idea that they wanna say, we want the general government budget to cut $100,000, right? Then we need to talk about it. If nobody has that in their head right now, then, and I have no injury, I would believe it right now. So I just don't think I haven't, I don't know, but that's what she's saying, and I agree with. If we have an idea, or somebody has the thing that they would like to see cut, now's the time to say it. Whether it's Board of Ed or general government. And if you want more time, then we gotta make till next week. Okay.
I mean, I kind of like the idea that was brought up earlier of like phasing for the fire department, even though I know like it may not be a big issue, or just to see broad of, yes, we get the fire chief, but then the benefits like later on, like kind of, phase it throughout the year of like a gradual to where it's like, we're not taking everything 100% first year versus like, okay, we know we have to do the fire chief. We know this is, something that's coming on, come up with some sort of agreement, that kind of thing, to where it's like, because I think we have to try and mitigate costs somewhere, just because it is a reval year. We already know that it's going to go up. I just feel like if we don't have like an alternative, then I don't know, we're not seeing it in different perspectives, or like find something else for general government where we ask them of like 100K, 50K, take it. At least we're trying to see it not be so high, I guess, or just taking the first round as is. I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
You just, I don't like bringing it down to 150, only brings it down. You gave us to 684 and it brings it down.
But that's only for the median value though, so that could change, like
it will change.
Yeah. So
But what does that bring the mill rate down? So we're at 28,161. Is that the one that Christina had?
yeah, the spreadsheet. It's 27.855. That's 150.
So. That would be. We get the Southern Fire Department by the state already bought for.
Yeah.
Yes. With Mark. I said, my opinion, that basically delaying, like, all that. You run the roads for movies. Then that would be, again, that's all the ramifications, that extra 5 minutes and sure, but a new chief comes off for first place, that person's got to do, start filling vacancies. That's all the ramifications go with that.
All it's to appreciate still work. For years, so we should work together all along, but they have their own separate entities and they always have. I don't want to diminish anybody this year because I know it's a tough time, but I still think that with the fire department, that's a tough call. That's something I
should be phased in over time because it's so large. But that's my own personal opinion, but I gotta sit down and I have to look at all the information we have and try to figure out, because I mean, there were answers to a lot of my questions tonight. I just have to I need to absorb that and try to figure out like what it is.
And I know, I appreciate that, because again, voting for that large budget, you know, that's going to affect everybody here when it comes to the mill. And I can understand when the things it is, but on the other hand, I do think that they've got 3 people already this year. And, you know, for some people, they may not want to wait till the next, till January. And for some of them, it might be, well, that's the promise. It's like on a wing and a prayer. Is it really going to happen?
I mean, realistically, so if one town goes up and they have benefits and say somebody near us, another town doesn't. They see this town going up, benefits, say Eastford, I don't know, like numbers he said, but anyway, you start to have bidding wars, right? Because, oh, this one pays better, I'm going here because it's 50 cents more, or it's got union, I'm going here, you know, so you're not very friendly to your surrounding towns when, you know, you're thinking.
Same argument on the board of education. Union.
I'm not saying they're not
Well,
wrong,
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying,
That's, and you're not wrong. And that's why one of the things that was pointed out was that budget still is on the vote. Nobody's shooting for the moon by any stretch. And I asked about the 150 because the budget, the benefit line item in that budget was 110. So if you slid that and took it, say 50% of it, it was half the year, you only cut down $55,000. So you would make a change in the mill rate of less than a point. So that's the problem. And again, you know, I personally have an issue with the Board of Education asks for 300,000, give or take, every single year or more, and we just get right over it.
no, that's not true. That's not true, because I've questioned that since I've been
Well,
on the
I'm
board.
not saying individually we don't skip over, I'm saying as.
I'm just saying, this year I thought that it was I thought it was really good, but like conscious for why I'm on the board, I said that I was gonna be fiscally responsible from the beginning. And I just have to figure it out. I have to work it out my land policies. You know what I do?
Jonathan, from last year to this year, I'm just asking, has the budget for the school gone up $481,355 about? I'll tell you. Because I don't think I have these funds.
From this current year to what's being submitted, it's 299,554.
Okay, I didn't have the new information. Okay.
How much of that budget is due to contractual obligation?
I was in that presentation. So.
This one, the slides,
Yeah. Other than that,
a lot of charts. They did on one of the charts this season. I think it's the chart that ripped out the book on that one. Alright. Benefits. Like IT, like purchase services and all.
like legal. And salary. Those numbers. That we got to say, no. That's for 3 years, the one that they negotiated last year. It plans for the out and then that is the reason on to the side, that's one, and then the race is also. So, 4 years back when it says, for the teachers, yes, but because of the whole year. It would be the 3rd year for the non-certified, but now it's. It just feels like we never stop with it, so because we went,
Can I just say something? So I just figured very, very roughly, do not quote me. But I just cut the pay increase to the firefighters in half, which I hate doing. But that literally will save you approximately $18,000. And you're gonna lose at least one person I know. Because that's the person I've been feeding sour balls to all night.
My stomach hurts.
And so I did it in half because she wanted to change it to January, so that's basically half a year. So it's be the same whether you gave them a full increase in January or half the increase the whole year. You're saving $18,000.
18,000.
That would be $18,000. That includes all the overtime.
Yep. Benefits?
No, I didn't say benefits. I said hours, the pay. I took all these hours and changed them. And it would save about $17,000 total. That's it.
What's the total dollar increase for wages?
$1.50.
No, the total for $400 and something dollars.
Yeah.
Right, but it's all based on all these hours. So I just took 14,600 and multiplied it by 24.25 instead. I took 29.20 and multiplied by 36.36, which would be the new overtime hours. I took the PTO and did the same thing. And like I said, it's very rough. I have 14,000, 1,500, 1,700. It's nothing. Like you're talking about nothing, it's nothing. I took all these holiday hours and changed them. I took all the PTOs and changed them.
All you simply had to do was take the 3 listings that were there.
I know, but instead, I did it this way because I think differently than you do. And I've done these numbers, I hate to tell you, for the last week. I have been running these numbers for my husband to double check his math. So, and I might be off, maybe I did something wrong. But what I'm basically saying is, to your point, it's nothing. If you're going to make a cut, you have to make a big cut.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but nobody sits in that damn shed and at the dump. Nobody sits in it. Nobody sits in it, so why fix it? Sorry.
Like I said, I've never been there.
Yeah, see, I said you're lucky, consider yourself lucky.
It's a wrap.
I mean, honestly, like that was one of the things that I was thinking about, like looking at this of like the transfer station and how much we paid for trash, how much we paid for removal, the expense of it. To where it's like I like looked at some other towns and stuff, and like, why aren't we charging for trash unless we do? And I just
We
don't
don't.
know. But
The room doesn't hold 2,000 people when they come in.
that's my point exactly, where it's like nobody's here now.
So
The fire department's here because that's what, so if you hit, you hit something that strikes a nerve, then maybe people will come out. And I just feel like that's something that could be substantial dollars. That could be your $100,000 for your chief. That could be, you know what I mean?
We'll tell you why. we
I just-
show it, and then there is some merit to it, because people are really, really cheap at $1 for a bag of trash to them. Seems like too much, so they go down on the side.
Yeah.
And historically, we had a town meeting
Crazy.
They
to
do.
do the dollar bag thing. It was standing room only, and you better believe you try that again, it'll go down no, and you'll have what he calls fly tipping. You'll have people throwing the trash on the streets. So don't
And
even
if
think
you
about
wanna
it.
know, they're already doing it, we don't charge. Go up, especially up in Lane,
Boston Hollow.
Boston Hollow. The trash, and it's not just trash, it's also large items, like, and we don't, again, we do not charge. Mattresses, couches, easy chairs, all kinds of stuff, like.
I mean, that just goes to show, I
Right.
mean.
Well, yeah, it is, and the fees, again, like the fees, for those things, for what we're being charged. We don't ever push back on like that. I don't know, I'm guessing that more slightly did look at other contractors, like when we get cheaper rates. I know. The board had the fire department and the general and the board selectmen all work together, and we all share fuel costs. So we can get it sit down like $2. We share one. That was one of the things that I used to complain about a lot, was that there wasn't a lot of sharing going on. They were pretty down to share. But yeah, it's some of the things, I know it seems crazy. I don't know why it costs so much to trash, to cut trash. And by the way, I would pay it all the way. I'm just saying that, and that's why we don't.
All right, I'm gonna go back here. You ran numbers, Margaret ran.
Maybe I didn't do it right. I'm questioning it now.
Either way, so I
Yeah,
just
I
did
think
this.
it-
So
it's
to
just
go
an
from,
example.
to cut the 150,000.
Yeah.
Okay. She said, she ran the number, the mill rate would be 27.855 with the $150,000 cut.
Yeah.
With the full budget as is right now, the mill rate would be 28.161. That's a 0.306 mill. It's less than half of that. It's a lot of money, I'm not denying it. 100% not denying it. But you would have to cut the entire general government increase, the entire school budget increase. Which one do you want? Do you want to cut both of them in half? Is that what we want to do? We do that?
But it's not gonna happen. They're not gonna be able
Well,
to
no,
do that.
like, we can say that, if we, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
you can say that, but I can tell you, right? The school's gonna tell you that, well, then you're gonna lose services, or you're gonna lose a teacher, or
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. And then, we're Jeff left, you'll have.
That's right.
You'll have 2,000 people in the room for that, and then you do the same thing on the general government side, and you'll have 2,000 people in there for that. And then they'll all want, well, but then when we say, well, your taxes are gonna go up $700, then they all say, well, we don't care, but so where is that I don't know.
The only way we're gonna find out is to put it to the vote.
That's
the only.
and I will say Keith and Judy and myself have said that we don't really think we should vote tonight, because they want to sit on it. I said, I think that the fire department should provide that other information for the sake of people who ask those questions. I think that's only fair. So we're ready to vote next week.
You're the majority.
Is there a minimum expenditure requirement for the board to be?
There is.
So that's the lowest you could go anyhow.
So then do we put it on the agenda first thing next week?
It's on the agenda already.
But nobody ever knows.
Was I close? Was I close? Just the fire. That's what I think, that's the fire.
So, Pam, what if we?
Right, so I said it was at the fire.
Maybe it has to be agenda we have.
For five.
Now it's for the regular, so I want to be at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So-
That's
You're only saving 75 cents an hour.
We would,
It's from 25.
leave it as is, we can have the beginning agenda items for next meeting be a discussion on both the general government and the Ashford school budget, and then we can adopt the budget.
Why don't we include the, like, the,
Yeah, we
We can do that too, yeah. Keep this campaign.
I know, but I got mine.
I am so backed up at home. That's why I'm talking about Monday, because weekends, I'm busy. We've got construction going on today. We have plumbers, we have people replacing our sills. We're getting holes drilled through the floor, the plumbing, and everything's a mess. We gotta move this, we gotta move that. We're picking
The
up.
only thing I would say, Pam, is leave us a spot in the agenda for next week, so that the fire department can answer those questions.
Oh, okay. You guys are never gonna.
I'm not doing another PowerPoint, but I will come back and answer the question.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
I had just one more thing before I go. So do we read the public notice too and approve that to then be posted for next? Is that, how does that work? Cause I just wanna make sure we don't forget it.
Yeah, that.
Or is that just
doesn't have
something
to be
that-
Done until next week.
Yeah.
The Board of Finance adopts
We have to
proposed
vote.
budget, Board of Finance sets date and approves notice for public hearing.
Oh, okay.
We set a date, we have it on the calendar already,
Oh, okay.
but that's that 26th, that's what Captain was talking about, is the actual update. For that, to have it on as the schedule outlines. If next week we said something went sideways, that was my point.
Oh, okay.
If they go sideways, I personally have no problem with saying we have to split the referendum. I know a lot about the stuff that happened, so that was my point. But if we can move forward next week, then we can do that on the 26th, and it meets the deadline, as far as I know, because this is a calendar that would go by Nina, Christine, Sherry, and Sherry, March, and Capra. So this should be correct date-wise to meet those deadlines.
And should never had to be added to the agenda.
Well, it would have to be on the agenda, it would have to be on the agenda.
Okay, so our items for the next agenda are gonna be to approve the budget, select the chair. So is there anything else?
I have discussion
Yeah.
on general.
The public notice.
Department to answer questions, budgets, selection of chairman, or finance update and others.
Okay, good. I was thinking, listening. Okay, Rob, I know, sorry, Rob.
No, that's okay. I'm new to this, but I kind of in a conflicting position. I know we're here to take care of the town and townspeople, be as fair as possible. Looking at the budget for the fire department. Being a member 51 years, the men and women that work, I look at their dedication. They've gone years at a steady rate. Okay. They're dedicated individuals that come to our department and work in the basement. And I'm thinking that with the budget that they put in, one person, but it wasn't on, seeing the dedication that's out there from these folks, it's well deserving that they can get what they're asking.
I
And,
agree with you.
and, I know it's a conflict of interest because I am. You're a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. Yeah. And I've worked with these folks and I don't see any animosity amongst the volunteers and the paid crew. We work together. Personality conflicts, that's everything. Okay, professionally, they meld well together. And the few of us that are left that are volunteers, we appreciate the paid staff that's here. And if we can assist them in their duties, we try to help. And I'm just saying, I think overall that I know that the board has to adjust money, so on and so forth, and where it's going to, but you don't want to see it fail.
I don't want to see a town
Right.
without a fire department.
Right, and the overall perspective that I see, if it doesn't go through, we've lost 3 members in the past year, and you can't blame them, financial and benefit. You lose more. The volunteers, in my opinion, being around, and there's a few other volunteers that I've been with for 50 plus years. We won't be able to handle what's going on in town. And as an example, the other day, I think we had 7 or 8 calls in the same day. All right. I was able to participate in some of them, but these fellas and the other guys, they were working 24, 36 hours. I mean, it just went on and on. And it's exhausting. It really is. And you get back and I think as a volunteer, we should work with the paid staff, help them in any way we can. I try to go down and socialize and talk with them, and I'll call them and say, hey, you guys need anything? It's dedication on their part. And I see their dedication with the monies that are being paid. But I look back to when we go old school dedication, you had chiefs in this department that would leave their jobs in town that cost them money when they left their jobs to help the town of Ashford. And I'm just saying, I think it's well deserved. And to look at it, to break it down, to see where everything is going, that is our responsibility. And I think it's like Paul said, the question that has to be answered, or questions, come back with the answers. But overall, I think it's a big bill, but I think it's one that that's my opinion. Thank you.
Any more? Okay, remarks for the good of the board. Thank you, guys.
I want to say thank you to Pam.
Oh, no,
Yes,
thank you guys for
You did a great job.
really your support. Thank you all for being so kind, and it was a rough meeting, new system, new chair, or acting chair.
Yeah.
So now she's
Very- Oh, do I have a motion to adjourn? Come on,
So.
second,
Second.
okay, it is, 10:22. Thank you all.